As our good friend and faithful watcher would say, it's Tuesday, so you know what that means. And guess what? On Championship Culture, we got something to discuss. With the lineage that dates all the way back to January 1st, 1975, and has went through all three major promotions. Notice I said all three major promotions. You know what? Let's just get to it. Welcome to season two of Championship Culture. I'm Brandon the Guy, and remember, every belt has a story. Now, of course, before we get into today's content, got to remind you of a couple quick things, and trust me, they're going to be quick today. Did you know that you can watch all of the restaurant content anytime just by going over to youtube.com/the restaurant? This includes all of season one, which has 25 episodes and one bonus episode for you. Once again, go over to youtube.com/the restaurant. Check out all the flagship show on there and also check out Championship Culture. Playlists are broken up. It'll be a little easier for you to find what you like to watch. Now, if that's not enough for you, you can always follow us on all social media platforms, which include Instagram, Threads, X, and Facebook, just by using at Wrestling Realm. And also, if you want to follow Championship Culture on Instagram, just do Championship Culture _. Follow us, we'll follow back. Make sure that you like and subscribe and engage in the conversation because we like to talk about all things wrestling. Yeah, you can download all of our you can download all of our audio content at any time just by going to Anchor, Stitcher, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and you can watch and subscribe to our Twitch channel, which is at the Wrestling Realm. Now, with all that being said, we're going to return the favor. You watch us. We're going to watch you. We're going to make comments. We're going to comment with you. But let the brothers at the Wrestling Realm save you some money as a way to say thank you. If you are interested in going to any kind of sporting events, live concerts, or just anything that you got to buy a ticket for, right? Head over to SeatGeek.com and see if that ticket is available. But I'll tell you what, if you use the promo code Wrestling Realm, it's going to save you $20 on any time you purchase a ticket of $50 or more. Once again, go over to our friends over here at SeatGeek.com. Use the promo code Wrestling Realm at checkout, and it's going to save you $20 on any purchase of $50 or more. Whew, so I told you, yep, like I said earlier, it must be Tuesday. Welcome, brother. Glad to see that you're here. So you know what that means on Tuesday. And if you couldn't tell from the show, we got a hefty topic for you today. But before we do, it seems like season two has had banger after banger after banger. Yes, I'm gonna take that phrase. I try not to take too many people's scratch traders, but season two, we've had special guests after special guests after special guests. We've had experts. We had you name it, we've had them, and we're gonna keep on going because today got a really special guest, right? Some may say, he was the reason that certain things happen because a lot of times he has the message. His name resonates. He's definitely an influencer and he's an inspiration. Sometimes he might try to deter you from what you're doing, but it's going to be for a reason because the expectations all live in the statement. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about all the way back from September of 2010. This gentleman started something, and I don't want to call it a revolution. I'm going to just say he built a brand built upon respect and taking respect from people who don't want to give it to you. A brand that's built around defying adversity and overcoming every obstacle placed in front of you. If you don't respect you, then make them. Who am I talking about? Ladies and gentlemen, I am talking about
Dari ufuk timur hingga ke ujung barat, terukir dengan indah jejak langkahmu.
so I guess that's his intro. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the CEO and owner of TRDA Brands. We're talking about the real Dwayne Allen. Welcome, brother. Come on into your secondary.
Oh, see, can you see by the dawn's early light? What's up? Oh, hey, sorry. I was getting myself in the right mindset of a show of tonight's magnitude. Not to mention celebrating the country in which this one championship has made an incredible name for himself. But we're not here, as you said, but I'm just here. So, brother guy, what's what's up, buddy?
You
Usually you
tell
guys don't
me,
advertise me because usually if my name's on the marquee, people just don't show up, but they can't go anywhere now. So
because you're here, right? And you see, I had
I'm
to
here.
change up your introduction a little bit. I want, I
That was
want to talk
very
about,
thoughtful.
we know you as the wrestler, but I don't think people know you as the artist, the creative genius, the
Hmm.
mastermind. I
Hmm.
don't know if they know that, TRDA stands for something, right? Just
It
like the
does.
real Dwayne Allen, like most people might
No, that's
seem
just
to
a
think it
coincidence.
does, right? It
Yeah,
just happened to be that way, right? Just like
that's
H to the A to the S to the T to the H to the E to the 3 to the R to the D. It's more than just, oh, you say his name, man. He'll
look. He's
appear.
on mute. He doesn't even
Yes,
like. You on mute?
sir.
We didn't
I'm
plan
good.
this.
I'm gone.
Seven. Okay.
A to the
No,
S,
Oh no,
T
I'm
to the
back.
H to the E,
just,
3 to the R to the D.
he appeared, and then
Look at that. He's all
look
over
at
the place.
that. He
Super
don't know what
producer.
he's doing. He is so excited. So yeah, I wanted people to I wanted people to know that TRDA is more than just a nice shirt or a nice hat that you wear. I wanted them to know the message. I want to know when it was founded, how it was founded. Take a second, tell the people because I liked your little intro. Is that your new intro video that you're gonna play for now? Because I couldn't even get it all out, and you
I
played your
got
video.
I got nothing to do with this. I don't produce the show. It has the third A to the A to the S, T to the H to the E, 3 to the R to the D. It's responsible for all these shenanigans. I got nothing to do with none of that. I don't know what
I
that
thought
was.
that was your new intro video. I
No.
mean, I looked at it. I think I got a clue what's going on, but I'm just gonna wait till you explain it to the people. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, when I was introducing the realness,
Hmm.
this video that played not last week, the week before, in the wrestling realm, and it just played now on Championship Culture,
Hmm.
went through. But tell the people who you are, because we're gonna get to the comments in a second before we dive into this hefty conversation.
Oh, yes, indeed. Well, for the people that must know about me, you must know that the fireflies have never been captured. They can only fly to the north and they can only fly to the south. But the thing about fireflies is they always fly above. And when they fly above, they notice things that the noticers never noticed in the first place, whatever that means. But the realness, the real Dwayne Allen, yes. TRDA is a concept. It's a way of living. It's a lifestyle. It's a way of thinking that I've always adopted. It represents me and all that I've ever been through. And naturally, it makes sense for other people to resonate with such a message, right? Is this a message about taking what's yours? People. I say it all the time. People don't often give you the respect you actually deserve. So you got to take it. And you say, how do you respect is earned? How do you take it? Well, you you go to an unbelievable level where people have no choice but to respect you. And through that process, you have to defy obstacles, you have to defy adversity. So it's the message. It's the message that I live by, it's a creed that I, often follow. So yeah, that's a little bit about TRDA. Like I said, people think it stands for the real Dwayne. I'm like, oh, that's just a coincidence. That was just for Twitter. But but yeah, you know, that's just a little bit about it. It's like this. I'm a Renaissance man. There's so many facets to who I am and what I do. But yeah, this is just another piece of a bigger puzzle. So
See, I knew it was more to it, but that's why I had to shed some light on that one, right?
there's always more
And
to it.
before we get into the comments, you see, Justin has said it must be Tuesday, right? And then
Mhm.
about your entrance video, I'm pretty sure that's what he meant. The shenanigans are afoot. And I think, Jordan, I hate to tell you this, this might be part of tomorrow's conversation because it's probably going to be a preview show for this Saturday on the flagship show on the Wrestle Room Now. But we can get into that. But I want to dive into this conversation about this United States Championship, right?
Yes,
Because
indeed.
Prototype, he's trying to gut us into it, right? And I know H to the A to the S to the T to the H to the E to the 3 to the R to the D is excited to see that you said his girlfriend Nia Jax will be winning. I know he is probably clipping this off and saying, "Yep, I'm gonna make a graphic because that's probably his pick too." But we're
Oh
gonna
boy.
we gonna if we have time, we're gonna get to that because it's
Yeah,
some questions I
he
got about
skipped a
that.
day.
So let me ask you this: when I said three major promotions, right?
Yes, sir. Mhm.
Which three did you think I was talking about? And this
Well,
is for the people in the comments too. Which three promotions do you think I was talking about?
I would probably say when you say major promotions, I'm assuming you're referring to the NWA or Jim Crockett Promotions, however you want to spin it. Outside of that, World Championship Wrestling, as well as the WWE.
Correct. And it's no slight to AEW. I'm just saying the three major promotions that this
Well,
belt,
they don't have a
right?
United States Championship.
No, they got other mid card titles, and that's what it's classified as because in the beginnings it was a territorial belt, right? The
Sure.
NWA, as it was known, the first iteration of it, the NWA United States heavyweight championship was the Mid Atlantic version from January 1st, 1975 to January 27th, 1981, which is a long time for a belt to be in its history when you look at some of the other belts.
Mhm.
But then from 81 to 91, it was the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship, which was the undisputed version, right?
Mhm.
So it has a lineage that went from 71 to 91 in NWA, right? Jim
Correct.
Crockett Promotions, part of it, all that stuff, right? And if you look at the list of wrestlers that held it during that time, it kind of was like the legends of today, right?
Sure. Mhm.
And based on the work that they were putting in, we didn't know that they were going to be the legends that we consider, right?
Mhm.
When you look at the NWA version of the United States belt, well, who caught your eye at the beginning, like, or who caught your eye and like, wow, this is a good match, or this was a good wrestler that held this belt?
You got to understand. My age is a little bit dated when it comes to the NWA in its early years, but something I recognize as a wrestling fan early. We talk about superior wrestling intellect. That's what what the wrestling realm kind of stands on. You look at the nature and the purpose and the meaning of the United States Championship. And the first thing I noticed as a kid and as a fan was, hey, this championship is a big deal, or this championship is the one that catapults the next guideline. So what happens is anytime in sports, most fans always try to catch who's up next, who's up next, who's the up and comer, who's the guy. Because everybody, even as fans, wants to be the one to say, I discovered him before he was the top guy. And I noticed it not the most, but I noticed it when Ric Flair had the championship. Ric Flair was bouncing back, of course, after some things he had been through, obviously, and then him being United States champion, and he wasn't completely the nature boy, but the nature boy was knocking. Like he was rounding that corner, and it was only a matter of time. And I noticed that when he had the championship, I was like, oh, okay, cool. When you look at his trajectory of what happened next in regard to Ric Flair being United States champion, I was like, okay, yeah, I see now that this is the championship that shows who's up next, or who could potentially be up next. And for a lot of the talent that probably weren't in the same space or up next to be the NWA's World Heavyweights champion, for the whole brand of the NWA, eventually Jim Crockett Promotions. I noticed that the United States Championship was it was a solid number two. And for me as a kid, that resonated with me because in my house, I was a solid number two, right? Um, my brother was older, so I was the number two. So in our house, he was always world champion. I was always chasing, but I was like, I'm still a champion. So those mid card titles are always the ones that captured my attention. It always brought me like, oh, I can still be a top guy and still, be considered a champion. That's what the United States Championship for that era, at least represented to me, because you got to remember at that time, the way we consume wrestling, you had to get it through the history books, right? So we're talking old magazines, we're talking almanacs, we're talking about old footage and things that may come on ESPN Classic. So that's where you learned about, at least my generation, where you learned about, some of the wrestling of yesteryear and what WCW looked like before it was WCW, is how we discovered the NWA at an early age and seeing the United States champion. And even that, just the different iterations of it. And like I said, getting different books and wrestling memorabilia and almanacs, you saw these championship belts in full tow. So Ric Flair was the first one that made me notice it of that era, to say, whoever has this belt's got to be up next.
And it's crazy because the first title holder, you can't say United States Championship without saying Harley Race.
Harley Race,
Let's be honest.
exactly. Like, come on now.
You just can't not say that name. And the NWA has toyed with, some of their belts have been retired, some of them have been brought back. How do you not have this man in any conversation? The fact that he was the predecessor to what we knew the standard would be. He was the guy that we knew, okay, this is who everybody's going to not necessarily model themselves behind, but this is the standard bearer. And then we got the Ric Flairs, the Blackjack Mulligan, the Terry Funks, the Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, because they had a model and they knew, okay, who appeals to the crowd, who can wrestle, who's the person that's carrying the show when the world champion is not around. Because a lot of people forget that during this territory days, you might not see the world champion for like 2 or 3 shows, but you got your heavyweight champion, your United States heavyweight champion. You got your television heavyweight champion there. You got your one set of tag team champions there. And then when the world champion came, it was a mega deal because you had other people putting in the work, had the workhorse belt, and putting the butts in the seats and entertaining people to be there. So as he plays in the background. But with that, I'm gonna give you a tidbit that's probably gonna have a lot of people say, are there any matches during the NWA day that come to mind when you think about this belt? I'm thinking that you're gonna hint at one, and the only reason I'm saying one because you said his name earlier, and I know it's a lot of house shows, so it's hard to catch him.
Let me ask you this: what are you hinting at? Because I have something in mind, but like I said, it was this era predates me a little bit. You know what I mean? So you got to remember when I was catching this stuff and when I was watching and how I was watching it. You know what I mean? So
I'm the same boat, but I remember because my grandmother being an avid fan that she was, and I think I'm living through her eyes.
Sure.
Anytime Ric Flair and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat had a match for this, especially in Flair country of North Carolina, it seemed like that was always the standard because this was during the time Bell came in 75. They had already been having people work through. Ric Flair had been on the scene for a little while, and he was getting his footing in, right? So by the time 1979 rolled around, Greensboro, North Carolina, this was the standard of a match that you wanted to see. And I remember her talking about these type of matches because when they had their matches later on, she was like, they could never have a bad match. And that's all she used to tell me. Like, she was a Ric Flair Sting fanatic, and she always said him and Ricky Dragon Steamboat could never have a bad match. Agree, disagree? What's your thoughts? Because I know you got a take for the people.
I do. I definitely agree 1,000%. It's because when you look at it in retrospect, this was like almost the beginning of what would be Flair Steamboat, the rivalry. And we're talking about a Hall of Fame rivalry, something that only ended at Ric Flair's Hall of Fame induction. So when Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, inducted Ric Flair and vice versa. I think didn't Ric Flair induct Ricky the Dragon Steamboat?
I think he did, didn't he?
I thought he did. I mean, and I could be wrong. I don't remember, but I remember one of the first things they used to always do when they would always lock up, no matter how old they were, and Ric Flair would always tell people like, he was Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was my greatest in-ring opponent, my greatest in-ring rival, because in order to bring out who Ric Flair was going to be, because remember I mentioned this earlier, right? I said we when you look back and you say, okay, cool, this is how we learn who's up next in the industry. This is how we study. This is how we learn what makes a superstar. Now, mind you, this is kids, but we're so obsessed with wrestling that anytime you got a chance to do anything, no matter what generation, what era it was, You know what I mean? You were going to dig deep because that was all you had the chance to consume until you got to your Monday, until you got to your Thursday, until you got to your Saturday, and on your Sunday night heats and your pay-per-views. So when you look at Nature Boy Ric Flair, this is where like Steamboat, the ultimate babyface, the guy has never been a heel, started to bring out what Ric Flair would eventually become, which is the biggest heel in the business, the biggest heel in the 80s, and arguably the best in-ring performer next to Shawn Michaels, of course. That has ever done it. One of the greatest entertainers of all time, bar none, no matter what the sport was. And you notice that there was a certain chemistry between these two that kind of like set the tone for not necessarily for what this championship will become, because if you notice where this championship would eventually go down the line, championships have their peaks, they have their ups and they have their downs. But when it comes to Flair Steamboat, I was like, yo, this is where it started. Now you know the history, and like I say, it's a history that follows all the way to the Hall of Fame. So
it is crazy because you would say Hall of Fame because throughout its history, when it went to, not necessarily went to, but when it became part of WCW, and when we say, I think this is where the history was being made because now it's to a broader audience. It's broadcast. We get to see it. From 91 to 2001, this was a staple to WCW. And we had two different versions of it. And I think I know which one Dwayne is going to go with, but I'm just going to hold up the 3-plate one because I always like the 3-plate one. And I loved it because of the side plate remind me of the big gold because of the texture background. It felt like it was I don't want to say suitable replacement for if you're not the world champion, but either I'm going to make it there or I am a former world champion. It had a lot of those elements to it, right?
sure.
So it was weird seeing it on the invasion angle, but we're going to get to there. But what was your take on the belt during the WCW days?
Before I tackle that one, let me tell you my favorite. There was no such thing for me as a favorite match for the United States Championship during the 80s era. But let me tell you who my favorite United States champion of that era was, though. It was Barry Windham.
Really?
Because you got to think about now, like you got to go back to little kid realness, and I'm talking about anywhere probably between 9 and probably 12 or 13. No, mostly 9 and 11. That's when I did my most pro wrestling research. I could have went to school for it. There were 3 things I look for. I look for either brothers, I look for black dudes, or big guys. It's because me and my brother, we were a brother, so I always like brother tag teams. That's why I was always a big fan of Cole and Kane, aka Harlem Heat. I was a huge fan of the bigger guys. Like you used to always hear about Barry Windham, and I'm like, who is this? What is this Barry Windham I'm hearing so much about? But when you go back and you watch how big he was, how agile he was Scott Hall before Scott Hall. You know what I mean? He was someone that I felt like he could work with everybody. And as a bigger kid, I always liked the bigger people. Like my brother always liked the tall wrestlers, the Canes, the Big Shows, the Undertakers, the Andre the Giant, so on. But in those years, I was like, yo, I like Barry Windham. I felt like if I was ever going to be big one day, I wanted to work like Barry Windham. So yeah, that was just my tidbit about yesteryear, because I didn't want to not give them like any love and respect just because it wasn't my era. You know what I mean? But this particular championship.
Now, before you go on, look who's joined the comments. Now it's crazy because I was going to say that's Marcus, but Channel likes to say Europe a lot too. So I don't know if it's Marcus or Channel, but somebody from Four Sides of the Ring is in the comments, and
my
the man who likes to mouth off. And he said it. Everybody has a story. So welcome, Mike. I wonder if Mrs. Mike with him too. So we shall see. But back to you, brother. So the question was, what was your thoughts or what was your take on this belt during this period? Because now let me tell the people where this is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
The Realness took over a whole show considered WCW belts, right? And
which you usually show no love to. I'm surprised you have that belt as it is, though. I'm surprised you have a United States Championship. When did you get that, by the way? I don't remember you having that one. Sorry.
I have both versions, remember? I got 3 and a 5-plate. It is.
I have to check my footage.
Yeah, it's in the lineup.
Now, is that just for today because it's United States Championship show? See, I'm calling you out because I see all the red, white, and blue stuff you got flowing behind you.
No, it's always in this lineup. It's just you can't see it because it's a little further down.
I'm not saying it was. I just don't remember. I got to look at the footage.
Oh, yeah. When you go back, just look. Because I got the 3 and a 5. But I personally like the 3. And we'll get to every belt as a story. But I'm going to tell you this.
Yes.
when we had a WCW show. If anybody wants to go back and watch the show, I encourage you to go back because the realness tried, wasn't denied, and kept on trying to convince me. But he danced around his belt for a reason. He danced around. He gave love to the cruiserweight, to the
Hmm.
television championship,
Hmm.
and he said no directly to the big gold. And we found out why because we did a show with Alfred Alpha Mike was on there. Marcus from Four Sides of the
Sides of
Ring.
the
We did a
ring.
whole Big Gold versus the World show, and he can no longer dance around this. I want to know what is your take on the United States title when it was in WCW?
It was the second greatest mid card championship of all time in the history of professional wrestling. Boom, bow, surprise. That's it. That's all. The second most prized possession. Let me tell you why.
All right, here we go.
Story
At
time with the freaking
25
realness.
minutes and 55 seconds, this is
Story
going
time
to
with
be
the
a click.
realness. This
All
is
right, here
what
we
this is
go.
what everybody worried about. You got to
Do
think
you need
about.
a
You got
3
to
or a 5 plate? Which one do you need? Because I'm going to
three
just
plate, three plate,
3
three
plate.
plate.
Okay,
Because
I'm going to just sit here and look crazy.
5 plate WCW United States Championship was cool, but 3 plate United States Championship in WCW was the era when WCW was at its peak. It was at its hottest, right? Now, with WCW, they had a ton of championships, but the product was so hot, the superstars were so hot. Sometimes the belts took a back seat, and to me, that's a good problem to have. Is because you've done an entire show about what makes does the superstar make the belt, or does the belt make the superstar? And WCW was so hot at the point in time. Sometimes these championships took a back seat to how good the product was and how good some of the superstars were that performed. This particular championship was the People's Championship. And there's two individuals in particular that I loved that had the championship, and I think wore it well. Diamond Dallas Page, People's Champion, and Bill Goldberg. Diamond Dallas Page was he symbolized the original concept or the original purpose of what the United States Championship was. Think about Harley Race. Harley Race was top player, main event guy, right? But his focus during the time of him winning the United States Championship was to hold down the United States. Is because you got to preface the belts. I got to do my realm stuff. I got to dig deep. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Championship belts, when they first came out, they meant something. They were literally the world. They were the top champions of whatever territory they represented. So, what I mean, the United States champion. If Ric Flair is your world champion, if Dusty Rhodes is your world champion, if Terry Funk is your world champion, their job is to travel the world. They can be in Memphis one night, they can be in Tokyo the next. That's their responsibility as the world's heavyweight champion. And that was something that had to be agreed upon promoters, territories, the whole 9 yards, right? The United States champion was supposed to be that top player that held down that territory of the United States. So while your champion is traveling everywhere, including the United States, but in the world, your United States champion is the top champion of the states. Your TV champion is the top champion that you see on your television when cable TV eventually made a play and played an integral part into the where professional wrestling is. You look at what WCW and the role that championship played during the time when WCW was at its hottest. You couldn't take Sting out of the top conversation. You couldn't take Hogan and NWO out of this top conversation. And it seems like for the longest time, they were the only ones in that conversation during that era of WCW when they was kicking WWF's butt. That's just the way that it was. That's it. That's all. But that United States Championship was still held with pride. It was a workhorse title. And then the rivalry between guys like Diamond Dallas Page and Raven, right? It was something that was must see TV because one, their rivalry, but two, there was a prize for it. And then eventually it would go on to sit on the waist of Goldberg. And once again, it goes back to what I said about Ric Flair. That's how we know who's up next. And in WCW, they were doing that. WCW, Goldberg was up next. He was the only one to crack into that top echelon at the time during WCW's hottest periods. Whether they capitalized on it or not, they did, but eventually it fell backwards. But that United States Championship, I don't want to say from that point on, but at that point was like, okay, you have this championship. This is the one. This is once again that you know who's up next. This is the guy. He was 185-0. Of course they made that up, but that's what that championship symbolized. This guy is up next. Now you got to remember, during this time in WWF, what was their mid-card championship? It was a WWF Intercontinental Championship. And what did it look like? What did it look like, Brandon?
A smaller version of the world title.
It
was
was no, it
oval.
wasn't. It was purple. It was oval, and I was like, "This is ridiculous." So the Rock is
It
fighting
wasn't
over it.
purple that long. It was not purple that long.
During this era, it was. Think
It was
about it.
only
Let's not.
for a blink. It was only a blink. They turned
It
it
was.
back black. Not The
It
Rock
didn't
is the
make it.
only one that
It
had the
didn't.
purple stripe,
It didn't make a difference. Triple H had it too.
and that's when it
Yeah.
turned black.
No, no, no. It doesn't matter because Triple H didn't have it that long before he dropped it. He got hurt or whatever the case may be. It was little, it was small, and it was ugly. So you got to think about it. As a kid, I'm like, bro, I'm a world champion guy. All right, I got my big eagle, I got my big gold. Now I need my second tier title because I was born into the second tier. That's what I resonate with. I hated that Oval Championship, especially in compared to the original. Well, not the original, but the previous incarnation of the. Nope, there it is. Now see, no, that's ugly. See, that's it doesn't look right with WWF. I have beef with that. No, that's terrible.
Why do you listen? We're not going to spin off to another show, sir.
No, that could
Continue
potentially
to.
happen. No, because that championship should not have been a WWF championship. Now, when they reintroduced that thing later on and it was bigger, it made sense. Randy Orton, Chris Jericho, that era, I was like, okay, that belt, but that right there had no business having WWF. They should have kept that belt the way it was. I didn't like Stone Cold because he threw it off the lake and Rock came back with this looking championship. No. So the United States Championship was my top tech second tier title. It to me, it also favors the original Intercontinental Championship or the previous incarnation of it. I keep saying the original, but it favors the Reggie Parks, that, obviously that's literally my favorite belt of all time. Like I can openly admit that. Like
The center plates were very similar. That's what you
yeah,
want to say, right?
and that's why I liked it a lot. So when the United States was on full display in WCW, I was looking for those championships. I was looking at all those matches. I was looking for Booker T. I was looking for DDP. I was looking for Raven. I was looking for Goldberg. I was looking for Scott Hall when he had it. I was looking for Bret Hart when he had it. I wasn't a fan of that. It was always one of my favorite championships. And because we lost this belt as a way of me, D Willie in the building.
Hollywood.
What's
And
up?
you see, brother Dennis King is in there too. He said,
Dennis King. Oh, look at
"Dwayne
that.
is preaching. Dwayne is
Thank you.
preaching." I didn't
Thank
want
you,
to
Dennis.
stop you, and he definitely threw it out there.
Dennis is a connoisseur of classic wrestling, so he can resonate with what I'm talking. What's up, Dennis? I didn't see you in there, sir. But this is what I'm saying though. So it's like when you look at the time period, you look at the what was going on at the time and the nature of the championships. This is why that WCW United, that was my make. I didn't pay nothing in the IC championship conversation in WWF any mind. I didn't care if Road Dogg had it. I didn't care if Billy Gunn had it. I'm telling you, I blocked this whole era out because I was like, bro, I'm flipping to WCW. Let me see what DDP is. Is he coming out with the title? Let me see if him and Raven's still beefing. Let me see who's, it was, that's what it was about for me. So and so during that era, you tell me what was my favorite mid-card championship of the Attitude Era of the Monday Night Wars. I'm gonna tell you every day of the week it was the WCW United States Championship. That's just what it is.
So I'm gonna throw a little tidbit in there.
Okay.
Doing research for this, I totally forgot that Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko held the belt because I remember their cruiserweight run so much more. I totally forgot that they held the belt.
But you gotta remember remember Eddie Guerrero. You gotta remember this WCW United States Championship had one of the most. It's considered one of when you talk about ladder matches, right? In the history of ladder matches, we all know where we go. But WCW had a rare gem of a ladder match at I don't remember what year it was. It might have been 96 or 7. I don't know.
7. You talking about was that Clash of the Champions?
It was NWO Sold Out, and they took over the entire show. Like this is when they were trying to sell WCW and NWO as two separate wrestling brands. It was one of those pay-per-views.
Ladder match.
Yeah, it was between him and Six Pac, my man Sean Waltman, and it had a different look to it because, like you say, we know these guys for their cruiserweight matchups and all that stuff before. Sean Waltman's a legend. Everything he does has been amazing. Like I'm a Sean Waltman guy. I watch everything from 1-2-3 Kid to his latest indie runs. Like I just recently stopped watching him when he cut his hair because I was like, okay, well, it's not X-Pac anymore.
Except for his TNA stuff, but we'll get to that.
I watched his TNA stuff. I'm a huge fan of his TNA stuff, and I was pissed that I didn't get more. He was one of the guys that I used to watch TNA for. His match with Jeff Hardy. His one of my favorite hardcore matches of all time is the Orange Clockwork House of Fun match with Raven. the match that Jeff Hardy was supposed to be in when he no showed. See, we're spinning off, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm gonna stay focused. Sean
Okay.
Waltman versus Eddie Guerrero for that championship. It was a ladder match. It was a rare gem because we didn't see ladder matches in WCW. But this one at the time, eventually we got another one, right? And back in '99, it was like Sid Vicious, Goldberg, Sting, and I don't know, maybe Jeff Jarrett for the United States Championship. That was a disaster too. But anyway, but yeah, that was a rare gem. And like I said, we were so used to seeing these guys in their cruiserweight matches, and because that's what we will remember them the most for. Now this match had a place in history, right? So it's like not only did it have its place in WCW and in pro wrestling lore, it also had its history in ladder matches and in this this rare gem of a match that we saw in WCW between two legends and Eddie Guerrero and Sean Waltman.
So let
See
me
the
ask you this
prototype notes.
question.
Look at that. He said 6 versus Eddie. See, I told you he said the prototype. He's prototype 619. He said it. He said it. He knew exactly what I was referring to when I said it.
And see, and Willie Wood said it. Eddie had it during the Attitude Era, and because I'll remember the cruise. I was so locked into the cruiserweights, and let me see. Did we miss anything else? I told you that this is what Dennis has said about you. He said you were
Yep.
preaching
Thank
because
you,
when
Dennis.
you start talking about territories of old school wrestling,
Yeah.
that's the expert right there. But
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
gonna say this, and you're gonna laugh when this. We already talked about Goldberg, right?
Mhm.
But it's a lot of things that happen during this time frame with this belt, right? And
Mhm.
when I'm talking about the WCW era, I'm talking about all the WCW era. We had, of course, Ric Flair, Sting, Conan, of course, Goldberg had it. We had Bret Hart, Lex Luger, Bret Hart. Remember they did the little change, DDP,
Yeah.
Bret Hart, Roddy Piper, Scott Hall. We even had a David Flair hold the belt, which I was like, all right, we did that. Okay, good, great. Goldberg, Bret Hart, Scott Hall. It kept going through these.
That's who was in that ladder match. It was Scott Hall. So it
Yeah.
was Goldberg, Sting, Scott Hall, and Sid Vicious ladder match
Oh,
for the
yep.
United States Championship in
That four-way ladder match
that
on
awkward time
Nitro.
period. On an awkward time period.
Like, and just
So
listen to those names again. Listen to names again. Goldberg, Sid Vicious, Scott Hall, and who am I missing?
Sting.
Sting. Them four in a ladder match. If that is not a mixed match of get out there and do a ladder match.
It looked like it too. It looked like it. It looked like it.
But and it's crazy, and I'm gonna say this, and when I say it's crazy, this is what got me the most, right?
Mhm.
When you look at the lineage of it, I'm trying to get to the picture. I'm stalling for time, as you say, without the dead air.
I got
We
you.
kind of forget
Oh, see, can you see?
we
Did you finally
forgot
get
that
it?
Dustin Rhodes, who had made a name for himself in WCW, actually
No,
held
he
this
didn't.
title.
No, he did not. Cut it out. No, he did not. Dustin. No, he did not. Nobody. No, cut it out. No, he didn't.
Nobody remembered it. You know why they don't remember it? Because it was the early days.
Because he talks about this era. He talks about trying to. You got to remember Dustin
Find
Rhodes.
himself. He was trying to find it.
Thank you. But you know why?
That's why I said that.
It was the
He
same
found
thing.
himself because he was trying to find himself.
And that's exactly what it was. He was trying to be what his father. Think about it. He grows up not having his father the way he felt like he should have had his father, right?
Mhm.
So now he gets a chance to be on the road. Hold on.
And it's crazy because he said that, him and Cody had that age gap, and Dusty has said he wanted to be there for Cody, unlike he wasn't there for Dustin.
Yeah. And that was
Go
and
ahead.
he's his father's on the road. This is my chance to get to know my father, to live the life that my father lived, to find a way for me to connect with him in a way that I didn't have a chance to before because Dusty was younger. He was on the road more. And Russell will tell you this is what we do on the road to take care of the ones at home. And everybody knew he was a natural, but he was bland and he wasn't really being himself. So this is what I'm talking about sometimes when it comes to championships. And this is why this is the perfect show to have this conversation on.
But I'm gonna
Sometimes
hit you with another one.
okay, go ahead.
Because keep that train of thought, because there was another wrestler.
Where's the stock market show with the belts? Like, is it up right now or is it down right now? Because that's what every championship has its era where it's like, okay, it's hot, okay, it's not so hot. Is where's
It sounds
that?
like
Or
you're
just,
saying every belt has a story. I
listen
think that's
to me.
what you just said.
I,
But
clearly,
there's another person during
yes.
this era
Mhm.
that I think he found himself. I don't think the company knew what they had. And
Oh, let's see what this is.
And
I'm
if you
curious.
go watch Four Sides of the Ring and
Hmm.
watch, they have a new show. It's not a spoiler. This is a what do you say? It's not a spoiler. It's a guarantee. They have a new
Hmm.
show that they're advertising called Opinions, right? Oh, I'm
So,
sorry,
so,
Opinion
it,
again.
so this they haven't done this yet.
Oh, it's they're advertising. I'm waiting for it to be released.
Oh,
But I'm
okay,
just
good.
telling
I
you
was about to
this:
say,
if
let
you
me know
pay
when it's up so I
attention,
can write this down.
I'm going to give you an Easter egg for it. But
Okay,
this
got it.
wrestler right here,
Hmm.
and he became one of the greatest wrestlers, right? Or entertainers, arguably, whatever you want to call him, right?
I don't know, did he?
Steve
You asking
Austin.
me?
Steve Austin had the belt, right? And he had it with this look. I
No,
want you to say, did they know
no.
what they had, or was they just doing the same thing that they did with Dustin?
That's exactly what it was. They did the same thing they did with Dustin.
Mm.
It's funny because we always had that famous clip of Steve Austin trying to pitch his what do you call it, breaking through the glass ceiling before, in WCW to Dusty, and Dusty's like, nah, baby, we're gonna keep you right where you at. They're gonna keep you right where you at right now. It's funny because that's a story that Steve Austin told in ECW about all the time he went to Dusty Rhodes to try to pitch opportunities. That's like
Now,
saying did they know what they had? That's like saying did they know what they had in Undertaker? Did they know what they had in
and
Diesel before he
Kane,
left? Did
right?
they know what they have in Kane? Did they know what they had in, you know what I mean? Like Scott Hall before he left.
They had no idea. But
No.
it's now Dwayne.
Yes, sir.
I said their name and they appeared, right?
Hmm.
Do you see the brothers in the comments? Ladies and gentlemen, Martin Hernandez and Marcus Hernandez are brothers.
Hmm.
And I'm going to start with this one. He just said Stunning
Uh-oh.
Steve, right? And of course, Dennis said the natural Dusty Rhodes, right? He was agreeing with you. But the brother said, when did the U.S. title lose its prestigiousness
That's
to
an
the
easy one.
Intercontinental Championship? Let's say you realness, because I'm pretty sure he gonna follow up with something. Marcus likes to throw these zingers at you. Martin gonna come with one too. So let's see, when did it lose it?
It lost its prestigiousness in the transition between Jim Crockett Promotions and WCW. The merger between Ted Turner buying Jim Crockett Promotions and going completely from the NWA to WCW is because there was a period in time where, like, don't get me wrong, in the early years, Sting was the guy that he was up next by all means, but then eventually once Sting got there, it was like, well, who was next? WCW was in such a transition period trying to create new stars. You know what I mean? It almost became like rinse and repeat, and it just kind of like, it was a shell of itself. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's because of the championship or who held it, but it just because of where the company was at the time. When your company is fledgling and they're not really making ends meet at the moment, yeah, a lot of times your focus is always the top stories. We see that in TNA in its early years. We saw it we see it with AEW right now. You know what I mean? There are very few companies that will say we're going to start at the middle and work our way to the top rather than, hey, we're new, we're trying to make a name for ourselves, let's put all the energy in the top story we make. And to me, that was the era when the United States kind of like, they were so focused on trying to get their world champion over. You know what I mean?
They
You had
forgot about
Rick.
that second. They
Yeah,
forgot
you
about
had
it.
Rick, you had Sting. They're trying to get Sting going, but even Sting says even at the top of his game, he was still considered second fiddle, and WCW still didn't really even be considered a legitimate second option nationally until Hulk Hogan showed up. Macho and everybody else that came along with it that made the businesses say, oh, okay, cool, licensing deals. Oh, okay, cool, public appearances. It was moments where Sting said she went to a signing and he was changing in the barn. WWF had a big setup, they had a big display, he had a piece of paper with WCW, and he was their world champion. So you think anybody's worried about the United States championship during this time period? I say not. So that's my tidbit.
Well, I can tell you when we were worried about it because in 2001, you remember what happened in 2001? In 2001,
There was a bit
um,
of a merger.
yeah, it was a bit of a merger, right? And from June of 2001 to November 18th, 2001. Well, let me talk about the beginning. We
Hmm.
saw Booker T come over, right,
Hmm.
with the big gold and the WCW United States Championship, right?
Hmm.
He brought both belts over because he was a double champion, right?
Correct.
And when he came over, he handed one over to Chris Canyon, right? But I want to sit on the fact that he came over as a double champ, right?
Well, he didn't really hand it over. Like that was Steve Austin's thing. They
that he
just
did to give. But I'm just let's keep it as the storyline, right?
okay, sure. Because Steve
What
Austin handed him that. He just gave it to him. I'm mad about that. Hey, who we got a new championship? Who deserves it? We're going to give it to you, Chris Kanyon, for being a good teammate. Really? Sorry, I'm a little upset about that.
so when you look at this, right, with Booker
Mhm.
T, right,
Right.
I want you to think about because we talked about Booker T and the Big Gold. You can't talk about WCW without saying Booker T. Can't talk
Mhm.
about the Big Gold without talking about Booker T, right? But if
Mhm.
you look at this graphic here, right, as we try to get it on the screen, bear with us, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna show you this graphic, right, of
You
Booker
need me to
T.
distract people again?
Yeah,
Oh, see, can you see
I
the
swear
light
this
of
thing.
love? Ooh, okay,
All
there we
right,
go.
so there we go. So it's almost two different versions of a person, right? The
Very
one
much
on
so.
the left, top guy in the company, right?
Yes.
The guy on the right trying to get back to his top status, right?
He was a top guy in the company. Don't do that.
No, bear with me. It's the reason I'm saying this, right?
Okay, okay. Let's see
He
where
was
this
the
goes.
top guy in WCW, right?
Right.
Holding both belts. Even though he
The guy.
gave one, right? He was the
Sure.
guy in WCW. Just like in Big Gold versus the World, you, Mike, and Marcus all said it about, when the WCW belt was up for grab, wrestlers were going after it, right? They wanted
Hmm.
to be attached to that lineage.
Hmm.
Was this the same feeling for the United States title? Because we had some people hold it that were WWF wrestlers at the time that were holding the WCW United States title. Was this the same feeling?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
The
Do I
United
need to
States.
list them? Yeah,
The,
Kurt Angle, Edge. Come on now.
it's not about who had the title. I think it's why their title return that bothers me the most. If that's fair, right?
Okay.
The United States Championship brought back was a consolation prize because of the brand split, right?
Oh no, we talking about pre brand split, before the brand split.
Well, well, see.
We t- we talking about that brief period. We're gonna get to the brand split.
So you
The
talking?
brief period
Oh,
when I'm sorry, Booker T, Chris Canyon, Tajiri, Rhino, Kurt Angle, Edge. They all got a chance to be WCW United States champions. Just like Kurt Angle, The Rock, Chris Jericho all got a chance to be WCW World Champion.
yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't. It
You
wasn't
think they were
set.
trying to rinse and repeat?
The problem was during that era, the WWF had spent so much time punching WCW in the face, right? By the time they handed this championship off, nobody think about it. You tell me how many people bring up those matches outside of people that's purposely talking about these mid-card spaces. Now, when we talk about mid-card championship and matches and this and that, of course we're going to bring those up. But I don't remember anybody telling me I remember that match for the WCW United States champion. You don't hear it. It's almost like a forgotten lineage. It's because during that time, everything got lost in the sauce. Everything played second fiddle to the invasion. Everything played second fiddle to the fact that WCW was teaming up with ECW versus WWF. The belt got lost in the sauce. Those guys had those matches with each other, whether that belt was in there or not. It didn't make a difference, right? Because you had an influx of WCW bringing in their history and lineage and championships, along with WWF already on top of the world, and they made it very clear we own wrestling, and WCW is officially the little brother. Henceforth, why they even proceeded with the invasion in the first place without WCW's major stars. Think about it. They all sat home and collected their paychecks. And
Mm-hmm.
Booker T was the only big time star that came over right away. Everybody else took the money. So it's like that era is often forgot about, and it carried no lineage. It was just, hey, we got this champ. I liked when Lance Storm and them held the championship, but that's because I like Lance Storm. You know what I mean? Not because he added his lineage. Nah, he added his lineage to the United States Championship late in WCW when he put that freaking Canadian sticker on the front, and he really came up with the first rendition of Team Canada. And that was, to me, one of the biggest runs he's ever had. WCW,
Mm-hmm.
ECW, or WWF. And that was, you got to remember, that was when the company was dang near in the toilet, but that was some of the best stuff they had on their TV at the time.
Uh-huh.
So it's like you give me that era. Lance Storm decides this is now the Canadian Championship. Me and my Canadian faction. Him, Elix Skipper. They even had Hacksaw Jim Duggan be a turncoat. Torrie Wilson. You know what I mean? One of the small bright spots in WCW during that funky era, and then now the invasion happens, and now you have the United States Championship trickling along, and then you got your major players, but it didn't make a difference. Kurt Angle, Rhino, Edge. Okay, so what? Like this, we don't. It gets lost in the sauce of the invasion because everything in that era had everything to do with WWF versus WCW versus ECW. That's why when they try to do that WCW show, okay, we're gonna do Raw from 8 to 10:45, and then from 10:45 to 11, we're going to do WCW. We'll have Tony Schiavone come out and not Scott Dawson. What was his name? I forgot his name. We're gonna have him come out, and they're gonna finish the show. Like, come on, man! It just didn't work. It didn't work.
And the only thing I remember is when Edge unified him, because Edge was the champion and he beat Test and he unified the belt.
Anytime you unify championship, and the one that's left standing is the championship that absorbed the other one, shows you what people think about the one that pretty much got absorbed.
Because
It is
that
what it
brings
is.
us to the point of when it was absorbed, and then 2 years later, it was returned for the brand split.
Mhm.
But when it was returned, it wasn't the WCW United States belt that we remember. It was
I was pissed about this too.
a whole nother design, right?
I
It
was not
said
happy
take
about
the
it.
flag and put it on a belt. Because that's exactly what they did. They said everything about America, put it on the belt. It's
I
just
was
a flag with the logo on the top.
I
And
was not happy about this championship.
now it's crazy because I don't know if people can see who signed it. Because everybody has a story. But I
Mhm.
got a signature on this belt for a reason because being in attendance when said wrestler won it, it was a big
Mhm.
deal. Because it was a time, and we're going to get to the time of the WCW belt, because this is probably we're going to spend the most of it because this was extreme mainstream. It was a belt that was making you get it. It was a belt that was making superstars. It was a belt that was being hot potatoed. It was a belt that started to spin. We're going to get to that too.
Oh boy, this
Yeah,
is good.
yeah, it's about to get real, right?
Oh
But
no. Mm-mm.
if you think about it, Stephanie McMahon debuted this and was like, "Oh, look, a new shiny toy. I'm bringing back the WCW belt with the brand split." And I feel like when we had the two separate champions, like as in the WCW World Champion and the WWF
Mhm.
World Champion, that was kind of like a prelude to the brand split, right? Because they had
Yeah,
two different sets of titles. You got your World Champion here. I gotta have my mid card. You
there
got
you
your
go.
tag
Yeah,
team. I gotta have my tag team. And it
right.
birthed the World Champion, the United States Champion, um, the WWE and World Tag Team Champions, and then
Boo. Did you hear me?
we
I
had the
said
Diva.
boo.
We had the Divas title later on and the women's title. So
Mhm.
everybody had their own brand, right?
Mhm.
But realness,
Yes,
what
sir.
was you said you hated it when it came? What
Oh,
was your?
I was so pissed because first of all, Big Show got it, and I was like, first of all, why is it so skinny looking? It was so
I was there for
small.
that show too
You know,
when he won. He beat
I
Eddie
hate,
Guerrero.
I hate small belts.
Hmm.
Like and it was thoroughly small. I said, bro, why is the belt so skinny? Second of all, when they said United States Championship, you got to remember this is not the information age. It wasn't a social media age. There was no spoilers. You had to wait until the show. So in my mind, the level of anticipation, I was expecting to see something similar to what we saw with the WWE Cruiserweight Championship is a WWF version of the United States Championship that we saw in WCW. That's what I was looking forward to. I was excited about it. I was like, yo, this is one of my favorite championships. I need this belt to come back. Here we go. And then that thing that you holding up to the screen showed up. And I was like, yo, what is this? Thoroughly pissed. Thought it was way too small. It grew on me eventually. Like, I don't know. I don't know the air, but when it got a little bit bigger, and I got used to it then, and I was like, you know what, I kind of like it, and and that's I like that belt as well because it holds its place in a certain era, but not when it first debuted. I was thoroughly disgusted with it, so I was pissed. I wasn't a fan of it.
And yes, I have two versions of it.
Hmm.
I don't love the belt that much. I have two versions. If you notice, this one is just the WWF. I'm sorry,
Sure,
WWE.
the network logo,
Cleaner logo, the network. Yeah,
yeah,
before because they had the scratch logo at
scratch
first.
logo, yep, and then the network logo.
Um, Here's a quick. Every belt has a story. It was on WWE Shop for $125. That's why
Oh,
I
I
have
would got
this
it
version.
too.
Yeah, it was. I don't know why. I don't know if they're trying to get rid of them or what. but it's very stiff. It's only 2 millimeter. I think somebody messed up in the production, and they were just
Hmm.
trying to offload them. So, needless to say, that's why I have it because when you look at this one and compare it to the other one,
Hmm.
the leather is stiffer, but you know, how the older belts. I don't know if you can
Sure.
see it, how the leather starts to
Yep.
buckle around the
Okay. Yep.
belts,
Yeah.
but it is a lot more flexible. I'll probably never get it relabeled, but this one has a belt tip. The other one does not. But
Okay.
let's let's get back to it. Did it have
Hmm.
the same feeling when it debuted? Did you feel like this belt was the same feeling of your as your precious WCW United States belt?
Real quick, mouthing off with Mike. I hated MVP. I'm sorry to your childhood. I hated him. I hated his guts,
I didn't want
and
to address that until we got to. We're
I
gonna get
hated
to that in a
I
second.
hated the fact that he had a stupid United States Championship ring. I hated the fact that he was acting like he was a professional athlete. Sorry. Okay. Now what are you asking me? I just saw the comment. I had to address my guy real quick. Like, I don't mean to just attack your childhood, but I couldn't
Well,
stand
now
it.
that you said,
Look,
let's
I'd have
do
disrupted
that.
the show. Uh,
You said I might be the only minority, but I like this version of the United States belt.
I
So,
did. It grew on me
Justin,
eventually, but I just
it
wasn't
it
happy about it when it first debuted. It was too small. It was not what I wanted, and I was a child, and I didn't get my way, and I was pissed about it. I mean,
it grew on me because of who was holding it.
it's same
That's
way.
when it did. Yeah,
Same
it grew on me
same
for
way.
who's holding it.
Yeah.
Like we could talk about it. It went from Eddie Guerrero to Big Show to John
No,
Cena, and
no.
it didn't even have a year, and he made it spin.
Booker
So I
T
kind
was
of feel
like was when I started to like, okay, I'm rocking this now.
it is crazy because Martin said, as an adult now, it's the belt I remember as a kid that always had the chance of being swapped. I'm sorry, being swapped as a new champion, and at the moment made it kind of fun. It did. We're going to get to it being
It
hot
was
potato.
it
I
was
trust you.
definitely it was
Trust
a
me. We
working
go.
man title. And
Yeah, we're gonna get to that.
I have a question for you about hot potatoing championships because I don't think we've ever had this conversation. And I think I'm going to call you out publicly. And I want the world to hear what you have. Now don't get nervous. I want the
Okay.
world to hear what you have to say. But go ahead. When you start talking about hot potatoing, remember the
Okay.
real is a question.
And the prototype, the way you keep the booze to yourself and talking about my.
I forgot. The prototype
He
619 loves those.
loves those
He does
belts.
not play
Yes,
about his ruthless
ruthless
aggression tag
aggression.
team
He loved those
championship.
ruthless aggression
I
tag
hate them.
belts. And last comment, Mike. We're gonna get to this. Hold on to that, Mike. We're gonna say something about MVP because I got a couple hot takes about that as well. Martin, hold on to it. But now Cena made a spin, right? I'm not going to take this down because if you go back and watch the unboxing episode from season one, the
Mhm.
special episode, we go a little bit in depth with this belt. I didn't realize until I got it, this is a gorgeous belt. And I encourage you to go back and look at that belt. You'll see my first reaction to it.
I had no problem with that championship, to be honest with you.
I did. You know why?
Why is that?
Because it just said, we took the flag and just made it spin like a hubcap and said John Cena on it.
That was what was hot at the time. Spinning rims was everywhere. Spinning chains,
Yeah,
spinning rims, G Unit. That
but
was the era.
but when you think about things, right?
Mhm.
There was a time where it was we had Booker T trying to
Mhm.
show that he's
He
still the
was
top guy, right?
man. That was one of my favorite Booker T runs. By the way, I
Yep.
still go back and watch those era of matches with Booker T. Yep,
John Cena kept getting it, which is a prelude to his WWE run.
of
And this is
course.
all in 2004. So in
Yep.
2004, we went from Booker T, John Cena, Carlito stabbed him, John Cena.
Oh man,
You forgot about that, right?
I was
So we had,
yo. I was pissed about Carlito showing up, just beating everybody on first days because he did the same thing to Shelton Benjamin when he showed up to Raw on the draft. Yeah,
you
honestly,
saw
this is
that too, right?
the ruthless aggressor is messing me up right now. Yeah, I told Brian H. Brother Brandon, I'm like, at some point we're gonna have to like deter and do like ruthless aggression stuff because like
Yes.
I feel like the ruthless aggression era, kids are like adults now, and there's so
Hmm.
many hit. As much as we criticize it, you look back on it now, like man, there was so many hit gems, especially when it comes even those United States Championship. Like as soon as you started naming each champion. As much as I said I don't like this stuff, I remember exactly where I was when a lot of these guys won that championship, and I was like, "Oh man, this stuff
You
is
remember
imprinted in
Booker
my
T's
brain."
best of 7 series that he had.
Yeah, with
And
are we?
yeah,
Do you say his name on your show? I don't know.
I don't because I don't want
Okay,
anybody to say
out
I'm
of
a
respect, yeah,
sympathizer.
me
Yeah,
too.
so
I
that's
don't.
why I said is he had that best of 7, and
Yeah,
that's kind of like when you look now that you see, this is what I mean by that. He was showing people I'm still that guy. And that's kind of like when you look now that you see, this is what I mean by that. He was showing people I'm still that guy. And that's kind of like when you look now that you see, this is what I mean by that. He was showing people I'm still that guy. And that's kind of like when you look now that you see, this is what I mean by that. He was showing people I'm still that guy. And that's kind of like when you look now that you see, this is what I mean by that. He was showing people I'm still that guy.
He was.
I'm still that guy. Believe it or not, I'm that guy that y'all gonna want to see.
Can I ask
And
you a
that was
question?
for 2004 and 2005. Yes,
Was this a
sir.
prelude? Was this a prelude to his world title run eventually? Do you think
I
this
believe
that
so.
run? Okay,
They wanted to. He had to prove that he could still fit in that space. So he
which I don't
worked
know
with
why he had to do that.
everybody.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
did.
because he
Yeah,
wasn't a what you call a guy.
yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you this: in the start of 2006,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, I want you to go back memory lane. Booker T started the year as champion, right?
Oh, we're
And this
out
is
here. We
after
haven't
that
even got
best
to
of.
the rest of the United States Championships yet because you guys like to close up shop early. Yes.
But this, I'm telling you, we're gonna get to this part that Martin had
Hmm.
mentioned. What you call it? We
Hmm.
went from Booker T, he lost it, and then JBL got it, right?
Hmm.
Then
Yep.
we get to the hot potato portion. Bobby
Okay.
Lashley, Finley, Mr. Kennedy, another person hold it.
This
Then we
era.
get to MVP, right?
Hmm.
And when MVP got it, he was a newcomer on the scene. Like, wait a
He
minute,
was.
we went through all these
Antonio.
people that we
Yep.
were established because Finley and Mr. Kennedy were established as, all right, what are we going to do with these guys on SmackDown? And then they
Hmm.
held the title, and everybody was like, "Yay, Finley got it with his shillelagh and Hornswoggle." Then it was like, "Oh, Mr. Kennedy," just so we can hear, Kennedy, gimmicks, hey, right? But when MVP got it,
Hmm.
he kind of held it and kind of started holding on to it, but he kind of started a thing where it's like, this is the title to look at because the longer I have it, the more you're going to say, all right, what is he doing with it? Is he doing anything at the pay per views?
Fair.
And
Fair enough.
we had this weird thing. And I'm
Hmm.
gonna see if you remember it because
Okay.
Matt Hardy took it
Yes. I
from
was
him
waiting. I was
and
waiting.
it went to ECW. So now they went from being SmackDown second title to like the ECW champion almost second title. It was ECW for a little while, right?
This was a
Quick fact,
confusing time period for WWE.
right? Because he had it at ECW because he wanted a backlash here in Baltimore, and it was crazy because now you get Shelton Benjamin, right?
Yeah.
Take it to Raw. Then MVP get it back, and you're like,
Hmm.
okay, what's MVP going to do? And then, lo and behold, from these ECW days of the new Superstar Initiative that they were
Oh
doing,
boy.
I don't know if you remember the boom came. The Jamaican accent was
Yeah.
there.
Listen to me. I remember all this stuff. I was a huge Kofi guy from day one. He was better
Yep.
than advertised. I thought it was
And when
just like, oh,
how
here comes a
MVP
Caribbean. Yeah.
and when MVP lost to him and he gave him that respect, I said, "Oh, we in good hands now."
One of the
Because
greatest
then we
United
went
States
from
champions of all time.
yep,
Kofi Kingston had like
Kofi
10 careers in his career. Like he had
in
so
his
many different
11th
eras.
year before he got to what you call it. He
Yeah.
had a don't
Hall of
worry.
Fame career.
Tune in tomorrow. I'm gonna talk about that. Um, Kofi, The Miz, Bret Hart. Of course, it was vacated.
This is
R-Truth, The
this is my
Miz,
era.
Daniel
See?
Bryan,
Now we
Sheamus.
cooking. Not
Sheamus
Sheamus.
with the Captain America gear. Remember?
Oh yeah, he
Back
did.
to
He
Kofi.
did start wearing red, white, and blue for a while. Never liked
Kofi,
Sheamus.
uh, Hughes Guy, Dolph Ziggler, Zack Ryder, Jack
Exactly.
Swagger, Santino, Cesaro. Back to Kofi, right? And I
This
said
era,
all
can I?
that.
That era to me, like solidified that championship. Let's just call it a spade. I don't know if that's where you was going. I didn't mean to
Yep.
corrupt you. This is the takeover
No,
show, but this
no.
is like
This is where we're
I'm
going.
listening. Like I'm like, God dang it! This is why that championship grew on me. All those
And
guys
who?
you named, like, set the
Mm-hmm.
tone. Like in all fairness, in I want my guy Mouth Alpha back to hear this. To me, it started with MVP. You were absolutely right. I wasn't a fan of his, but you were. He used to blow me how this dude used to be every week like he was this big time superstar, but he treated that United States Championship the way it should have been treated. Like it was a big deal. Like he said he pattered MVP after like Terrell Owens because T.O. was at the time, the arrogant wide receiver, superstar football player, quarterback. I thought MVP played football at one point the way he was carrying himself. He's ringside and JBL's giving him a ring, and I was like, yo, this dude's getting on my nerves. But you named just the Hall of Fame block of talent that made that championship what it is today, which is why I would have in my collection, which I do plan to get it at some point one day, and why it's going to have its place, on my mantle. But that is, man,
But
it's
not
just
only that, look at
yeah,
their career now because of this. MVP, a great manager, a good wrestler, right?
mhm.
I think injury kind of slowed him down a lot. Let's call it what it is, right?
He was kind of older when he kind of got his run anyway. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah,
Matt Hardy, we can't say more about Matt Hardy besides the
yeah,
icon, right?
sure.
Rusev, he keeps scratching the surface, right? he did things for the TNT title that made me pay attention to that, right? Daniel Bryan,
Hmm.
arguably the greatest wrestler of this generation, right?
Yeah,
If not of all time. But that's
that's
an opinion.
sure.
Everybody can have one. Some people say he's the greatest. I say he's in the top five. You can't say greatest without saying his name. Cesaro.
He's in my favorite like 1A and 1B right now. Current guys, him and AJ Styles.
Yep. And Cesaro. He's the
Cesaro, he
wrestler's
listen to me,
wrestler.
bro. That even his earliest Antonio Cesaro era when he was coming out with Oksana, you talking about putting on banger after banger after banger.
Hmm.
He held it down. And I'm
Yep.
talking
And
about
kept going.
a guy that didn't need a whole lot of TV time, a guy that didn't need a whole lot of storylines. He came out there with his little track jacket, his beret, sometimes with her, whether he had a first name or not. I mean, he was one of the greatest United States champs of all time. But so much of his work gets lost in the sauce just because of that era and the way things were kind of
Because
structured,
he
man.
didn't
But
get a mic. He couldn't do it on a mic.
yeah, and
That's
then
what
like I said,
killed.
he had Oksana, that was his mouthpiece. But then eventually she,
And
you
all the
know,
wrestlers talk great about him. Everybody has said the same thing about this man, that he's one of the safest workers, one of the best workers to work with.
you notice he's
And
doing you notice he's doing the same thing in AEW as he did in WWE. He might as well go
um,
back home.
yep. And we forgot to mention, as you mentioned it,
Listen to
right?
me. That guy, he was that dude. He was that dude. He's once again another one of the greatest If I had a United States champion of this era, Hall of Fame, he's on it. He is on it. I'm telling you, like I have an iPod. Most kids who don't know this is what I'm talking about. I have an iPod video, 30 gig, and I have a section where I learned when you start doing you get older in college, you start doing crooked stuff. I learned how to rip videos from the internet and put it on my before it was a popular thing to do.
To put it
Like
on there so you can watch his video,
so
his
I had
matches.
Christian's matches on my. I had Kofi Kings's United States Championship matches on my iPod. Like I would just watch them. Even Jack Swagger, I had Jack Swagger stuff on there. That era of SmackDown, and he was front and center for it, man. Dolph Ziggler's another one. I was like, man, these dudes, they took with that championship, and it just when you hold the championship and you value it in its original, like it's the spirit of why you have it in the first place. Sometimes you don't have those moments or you don't have those superstars to carry the championship, but it was never a gimmick title. It was never like every once in a while it was, WCW had their era when it was, fuzzy and it's the championships go up and down, you know what I mean? But whew, man, now I'm gonna go back and I gotta go watch all this ruthless aggressive stuff, fooling around with you guys. Now I gotta go down one of these ruthless aggression rabbit holes. I'm like, bro, it was a lot of hidden gems, just a lot of good quality wrestling that we, don't always get credit for because it was during a forgettable era, as we call it. No
So
disrespect
we
to all the Attitude Era kids that are grown now that are watching this. Like, don't talk about my childhood. I apologize.
so I gotta address some of these, right?
Hmm.
Martin said MVP had the greatest entrance that I ever saw. I don't know. I couldn't get past the blow up doll of him and just
But
standing there like this.
it was, but once again, if you think about the times, everybody was doing that, right? Now you know how
Doing
now
something.
like every major sports promotion
I
that was
just
like the new
got it. It
thing.
was a sports
Everybody was
reference.
right. It's
I just
sorry,
got it.
Brandon. Sorry,
Drew,
sorry,
I got
Brandon.
another sports reference for you.
Sorry, Brandon. It's every like even like Pop Warner teams, every high school team, like football teams, they were doing it. They had these blow up like Titantron entrances. Everybody was coming through, and I was like, you know. So yeah, it was
Mike,
none of the times.
I told you, Mike, stick with me. I can get you some deals. He said, "What a steal! I'm jealous of the United States belt, man." But and Mike does have a United States belt, and he has a great story behind it. And then
Tell us
I
the story.
forgot what he said. Oh, he's going to come on and tell that story. I was perfect for the time. It was he's talking about the spinner because 50
Yeah.
Cent had every card
See?
spinning on him. Yeah, this is true. And for that time, right? And of course
Yep.
he agrees with him.
Right. The
We just
Dada
gonna leave
sneakers. The Dada
it.
sneakers had the spinning rims at the bottom of the sneakers. Yes, I'm telling you, everything was spinning in the era,
Spinning.
bro. Everything was
Big
spinning.
jerseys, white Air Force Ones. That was a different time, and that wasn't even that
Bro.
long ago. That's the craziest part. And
You
then
think it wasn't that long ago? Talk to a young person.
Martin said those guys all who deserve to hold some kind of title at least once. This
Facts.
is
I couldn't
true.
disagree.
And that's
Yeah.
why I said we were going to get to this. And this is why I figured would be the meat and potatoes of it because this is where it was so mainstream. It was so much of we cared about these wrestlers because they had stories behind them. Like all
Right.
I remember is when Finley got it because it was a feel good moment because him and Hornswoggle was just over. They were
Yeah.
passing out hats, giving shillelaghs. I remember
Like,
being at the
why though?
show,
Finley was old as dirt, came out of nowhere from WCW. Like, bro, why is he a top guy all of a sudden? I was confused on that time. Sorry.
and I remember because we was at a show and David got Hornswoggle's hat, and I was like,
Mm.
"Oh, that's kind of cool." But Martin, see, this is why we talking about they dropping stuff. MVP was Logan Paul before Logan Paul. I can't
I don't.
disagree.
Where's he getting that from? As far as what?
The obnoxious wrestler, the
Oh, okay.
obnoxious.
Sure. Yeah.
You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like the
MVP
one thing.
probably was the archetype. Yeah, because even though like Logan Paul comes from like being a celebrity, that was kind of the character that MVP was playing anyway. It's
Mhm.
because when he first came in, I remember when MVP debuted, he was so I'm telling you, I was looking like, did he used to play football or something? Like, why they treat him like he was a big deal? They treated him like he was a crossover star, like, oh, I'm a
With
professional
the
athlete.
chains and the suits.
Yeah. And now I'm coming to be a wrestler. He was quick. Remember, he was ringside before he debuted and stuff like that. And they were bragging like, who Montel Von? I'm like, who the heck is he?
And he
So I mean,
backstage.
that's probably fair. He definitely was the archetype for the character that Logan Paul kind of plays now. Like I'm kind of the naturally talented celebrity that's coming over here to be a part of this now, and here we are.
And this is where we are. And just like the
Yeah.
prototype said,
Mhm.
my first match of my first favorite, I was happy when Matt won at Backlash. I think we
Oh
were
yeah,
happy because
sure,
the whole storyline going into it. They were even tag team champions at one time.
bro.
MVP was holding all three of the belts. He wouldn't give Matt the tag belt. I remember
They had
those
so much
matches. He
going
would
on.
just
They were beefing, then they were tag team, and I was like, but it was entertaining though. Like it was the
it
odd
definitely
couple
made you
tag
pay
team.
attention
Yeah,
to that mid card.
yeah. Matt Hardy's
Oh,
Matt.
look at that. He said I knew you'd come
See,
around.
listen, I listen to me. As much as I was not a fan, MVP was that dude though. Like I'm not gonna fake like he wasn't. Even like I said, I remember his feud with Kane was ridiculous. You know, he had an Inferno match with Kane. You know what I mean? And I remember he
Oh
was
yeah, he burnt his back.
yeah, because he was still wearing the full like the full like before he had the sleeves cut off his gear. I hated his gear. I was like, but like I said, that's what football players wear when they work out sometimes. And I was like, dude, this dude is killing me. He comes out with a bedazzled and
Long
doing the
sleeve
Dion
shorts.
strut. But yeah, him and Kane went back and forth during that era a lot.
He said the image of Cesaro with the US belt, the main plate has a different design. Was it an edit or actual? Let me go back and look because I don't think it was a
I
different
think
one.
it
It
was
might
just
have
an
just
older
been his
version
edit.
of it.
So all of them have no, they all have the scratch logo. Oh, you know what? It's been inverted. Probably when he was doing something, it looked like it got inverted.
Oh, okay, they flipped the photo.
Yeah, the photo was flipped.
Got it.
But
Yeah.
this is where you might want to see the super producer come in because I'm gonna say something about this. We giving all these wrestlers their flowers. We talked about how enjoyable this the WCW reincarnation of the WWF United States title has been, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there was one rivalry that we kept coming back to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna just say this. This rivalry
Whew, man.
actually, I think, defined Kofi in the he is that guy. Because you had a Dolph Ziggler who they finally figured out what to do with him.
Mm-hmm.
This rivalry transcended between the Intercontinental and the US belt.
Yeah.
And every time Kofi won, it felt like a big deal, like he had overcame something. And
Sure.
because of these two guys with their style, this just felt like this was the right match
Now I gotta go
during
back
this
and watch
time.
this stuff.
And remember, this was
This is
Dolph
y'all
won
fault.
it in DC
Yeah.
when it
Yeah.
was at Capital Punishment. But Kofi, you know, he would get it back, but he lost it to Dolph. They had a great match, and it was I don't want to say it was a time where all right, let's see what Dolph can do
Sure.
because yeah, he lost it to Zack Ryder, but that build up that Zack Ryder wanted from him was like, oh, it was
Mhm.
major. Dolph did what he needed to do. He took it from our hero, but now the next hero is going to take it from him.
Sure.
What was your thoughts on this rivalry?
It was to me, there's certain rivalries that kind of define a generation of wrestling. And when you think about the ruthless aggression era, their mid card is some of the best wrestling that we've ever seen ever. Like the main events may have been not necessarily stale, but just didn't stick. And they may, it's I call it the forgettable era for a reason. But Dolph Ziggler and Kofi Kingston, a lot of times, if you look back, they go hand in hand with each other. They brought out the best in each other, and they always gave us something that there's a handful of guys that just match. They just go well together. And Kofi and Dolph were just no exception to this concept by any means. Because if you needed someone to carry a championship, you pick one of them. You know what I mean? If it was down, you say, okay, cool. We need somebody in this spot that's going to go out there and represent this. It was a work. They defined the workhorse title. Like whenever they had a championship, that championship was the workhorse title. And I say the same for guys like Shelton Benjamin, maybe Carlito to a degree, but Carlito had more of a gimmick and more of a character. But a lot of times Kofi didn't have crazy storylines and character stuff that he was involved in. And neither did Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler did a little bit because of who he was. And, backstage, like, hey, my name's Dolph Ziggler. Remember that whole thing he was doing at first? And then once he got in the ring, and he was just ridiculous. He was always flipping and bouncing in the ring. It was like, yo, if you want a good match, if you want a good rivalry, you want to sit there and say, cool, you got 15 minutes, and I need you to burn the house down because we're going to take a break, and then we're going to go to the main event. It was Kofi Kingston and Dolph Ziggler. And if you don't believe me, go back and watch the matches. Like, it's there. There's a reason we have YouTube and network and all that stuff. Go back and watch these guys. And I'm not talking about just on main shows. Go back and watch the superstars. Go back and watch those side shows and the stuff they used to do. They used to main event those shows. And you used to be like, man, imagine going to those shows live and you see those before the show starts. How am I sit there and watch Raw SmackDown after they done brought the house down? After a while, those guys stopped opening up the show. Those guys weren't there to record those shows anymore because they were that good. These guys were good enough to close the show outside of the, staleness of the storylines that, that kind of didn't stick all the time. But they go hand in hand with each other. They are a huge part of each other's legacy.
And if you think about it, we got that translated in the Intercontinental title. And we kind of didn't get it when they tried to do it with the World Championship.
Sure.
It was something just didn't. I was like, you had the blueprint, but it didn't translate over. And
they didn't have the right guys carrying the matches. Like it was. I think the Kofi Kingston and Dolph Ziggler, those guys match each other well, right? They can keep up with each other. A match between CM Punk and Chris Jericho is not going to fit the same way. It's because they got to. CM Punk can work with the Miz, but he can't work the same way with the Miz as he's going to work with the Chris Jericho or Kofi Kingston or Dolph Ziggler. It's different style of match, different psychology. Chris Jericho is going to take a more veteran approach to it, slow it down even more storytelling, more of the smaller things versus Dolph Ziggler and Kofi Kingston. They're going to rev it up a little bit, right? And then they're going to slow it down. Then they're going to give you much. So it's just like, to me, that was the issue with the world title. This is what I'm saying. Like, you didn't know who was at the top of the card, and you purposely held these guys back is because they will make you world champions, and that spot looked bad anyway. So that's why I was saying the ruthless aggression. It was all over the place. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're okay. Because you said something earlier about it kind of like lost its luster, right? And one of the questions about it being it lost its luster, right? But I'm gonna say this. When certain people had it, like, all right, we know John Cena lost it to Alberto. Yeah. As like, you pay back for him losing the world title to him, if that's what the story tells. But we had a hot potato where Alberto, Kalisto, Kalisto. Because it was literally Kalisto won it on Raw, and then on SmackDown he lost it to Alberto in the same week. Yeah. And it was like, what was the purpose of that? But then we get to things where it's like, it was furthering a story because Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, AJ Styles. Then your guy, Baron Corbin. All right, what we going to do? Nothing. Dolph Ziggler. And then he left it, right?
He said, what we going to do? Nothing. And then, Dolph Ziggler. Who is Dolph back there? Yeah. You're up zigzag. Nah, this isn't working.
Then, this is I'm going to call it the forgotten period. Because I guarantee you, when I say this forgotten period, nobody's going to remember Bobby Roode, Randy Orton, Jinder Mahal, Jeff Hardy, Shinsuke, Rusev, Shinsuke, R-Truth, Samoa Joe, Rey Mysterio, Samoa Joe, Ricochet, AJ Styles, Rey Mysterio, Pandemic, here we come with Andrade, and Apollo Crews.
That's not fair.
Apollo Crews took us into the right when he won it from him, right?
We got a new championship after that.
Yeah, we got a facelift, right? Everybody was excited. Came out of nowhere. It was a COVID treat, right? They said, "Hey."
I was about to say, it was a COVID treat. This is exactly what it was.
And Mike has one of these. He has Yankee side plates on his. I need to
Okay.
put my Apollo Crews side plates on them, but these are not the stock plates that come with it. These are from the WWE Championship because one of the guys in the belt group said if you put it on here, it looks better because the original stock plates
Hmm.
are just silver and they look kind of weird because this belt doesn't have much color, right?
Sure.
But was this now? Remember, at this time we had
Oh
this
boy, here we go.
and
Here
the
comes
white
another hot take.
IC, right?
Yep.
Was this better than the oval? I mean, the white IC at the time.
No.
You still going with the white IC?
Of course, it's a classic. It's a
Okay.
classic silhouette. Come on now, Reggie Parks.
Was this an upgrade from what we had previous?
Mm. It was
I just want people to see the shape of this
the
belt. I don't
depth
know if
of it.
anybody
Like
can really.
that is such a classic looking. Like
And if
they
you
don't
look
make
at it,
belts.
everything's raised.
It's first of all,
Championship
it's
is raised.
what belt was like that? It was another belt that had that depth of championship. And at first, I didn't like it. I was like, it's missing pink. Of course, we all say the same thing. We wanted that blue to be at the top where the stars are.
Yeah, behind it. And so many
I
people has
think that would have
modified it.
made it pop a little bit more. I didn't get Brian H had it in person. And I saw his, and I was like, okay, it's because it's a big belt. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, cool. It's
It has a
not bad.
tip here. Look at the tip.
You hear that, brother Hugh?
Yeah, it has a tip. A full tip at that.
Oh,
Not a half
look at
tip.
that.
They give you the whole tip on this. But we have stars on the side. We have stars on the.
Brother Hugh's backstage trying not to break. Look at him.
I didn't even look. I'm holding the belt. We got stars. So this is where Triple H, I believe, was experimenting with some belts, right? He said, "We're gonna do it." You crack it up.
Look at that, brother.
But wait a minute. I don't know if Mike saw this. Mike, he said the Stankies. And
Thanks,
then
man.
Prototype said the final form of the United States Championship. I'm in love with that belt. Yes.
It didn't hit the same for me.
Okay. Was Apollo Crews the right person to debut?
Yes, he was, man.
Okay.
Think about it. Apollo Crews is. Wait a minute. Is he even under contract with WWE anymore, or has he quietly been let go? Does anybody know?
He's been enjoying nice catering.
Okay. Well, he has always been a Triple H guy from the beginning. Uha Nation was always one of Triple H's guys, and they just never got him going. I didn't mind the character change, right? I actually love Nigerian Prince, Apollo Crews. The stuff he did with Big E, and then eventually Andrade. I enjoyed it. He didn't need the accent. You know what I mean? And big General Ustiz, what was his name? What did he call himself?
Commander Aziz.
Commander Aziz. I said General Ustiz. That's terrible. Commander Aziz. He was fine as his heater, and even their look. I'm like, dude, but you didn't need to make them talk. Let him be angry Nigerian prince because what he said was true. But they dropped the ball with that one. But I think he was right. First of all, you got to remember during that era, they were only using people on TV that they could depend on. And they had to depend on the bread and butter of the industry, which is pro wrestling. That's why you saw your Ricochets. That's why you saw your Apollo Crews. That's why you saw your Andrades at one point, because they were bringing the house down with nobody in there in the room outside of the production folks, the camera people, and maybe some NXT superstars and the crowd that would eventually trickle in. You had to rely on what made the industry, the bread and butter, what happens inside the ring. You know what I mean? They had nothing to feed off of but each other. I thought he was the absolute perfect pick for it. But I think he got caught up in a really bad time. And they dropped the ball, man. He went backwards. I thought we
see the bird.
Think about it. He had been sitting there. It's definitely a beautiful championship. He had it's to me, that's a classic look. We talked about belt silhouettes. That's a classic, shape of a championship belt. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna. You see what Brother Hugh said in the comments? He's terrible. But yeah, he was the right person. They dropped the ball with Apollo. We thought he was going to finally turn that corner like Cesaro. Like, okay, finally he's going to get a shot. It's finally going to be his turn. Like he's got something to work with now. He's kind of got this gimmick, and
And
Vince
the crazy part is, I think if he had a manager, because let's think about this: Bobby Lashley doesn't need a manager, but they keep giving him a mouthpiece. Bobby Lashley can be his mouthpiece, but when he has that mouthpiece, he's just destructive in the ring, right?
But think about it though. When he has a mouthpiece, he also doesn't talk either.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's just destructive in the ring.
Yeah.
They just let him do what he do in the ring, right?
Yeah,
But then he can show that he doesn't need a mouthpiece, but the crowd more levitates towards him being. We want to see Bobby when he has the mic himself.
I agree.
Apollo, I think, failed because he couldn't. One, he had nothing for crowd participation, right? In
Yeah,
any of his runs, NXT, main roster, back to NXT, and then we know what he can do as a wrestler, but we need to check off another box of some sort, right? And yeah, it was him. Then he dropped it to Bobby Lashley.
Hurt
Then the
Business.
whole shenanigans with Riddle. Then I don't know if you remember this. Sheamus had it.
Yeah,
Then we get to a point that I
he
think
did have
was the high point of this individual title,
it.
right? Because what we're gonna get to is, and this is if we got time, it depends on how the
This
people
is why this
feel.
thing got its own goddamn show. There's no way in the world I was going to answer this question during that WCW episode.
No, not at all. But we had this happen.
Mm.
We had Damian Priest as the champion.
Mm-hmm.
He lost to Finn Balor.
Mm-hmm.
And now we see these two guys working together in the
Oh
Judgment
boy.
Day. We see them as tag team champions,
Mm-mm.
2-time undisputed tag team champions, right? And on Monday, he said, big fella, big fella. He kept on going. One of them has a
Mm-mm.
belt right now. And we're in
Mm-mm.
the same situation when he had the belt before, right?
Uh-oh.
Is this something that might be brewing in the background?
Absolutely. I'm not even gonna hold you because Finn is like Finn is going along with everything right now. Like he's chilling, but don't act like Finn ain't Finn. You know
And
what
we
I
still
mean?
got that demon. We still can bring out the demon.
Yeah,
And
like
remember what's happened when he's the demon.
I can see Finn Balor beating Damian Priest for the title.
And we keep saying, oh, Drew need a rematch, CM Punk, Seth Rollins. Y'all forget that Finn Balor is a Triple H guy.
Big time.
And
Triple
who's
H
to say
saved
this
Finn
is
Balor's career when Vince went down.
And remember, he revitalized it for him.
In NXT.
Mm-hmm.
He hit the
And Finn Balor.
Here's about to piss me off. I'm sorry. He hit the
good.
reset button in NXT. We saw a different layer of him. We saw Finn Balor and Prince Devitt mixed into one. Like we saw in NXT what Prince Devitt would have eventually evolved into if he would still have been in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And then Vince McMahon goes, I love the heel work you did in NXT. You did some amazing stuff. Now come back up here and start smiling and be a babyface again.
Show off
Make
your
it make
abs.
sense. Make it make sense, please.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the past. We're not here to talk about that.
So has the WWE version of the United States title build more stars than, and when I say build more than the WCW version? And before you answer, remember the WCW had a lot of established stars.
Come on, man, cut it out.
To hold
You already know the answer to this question.
I know. I want to hear the realness. I'm goading you in like you do me.
Of course, it's just there's no comparison to WCW's era of the United States Championship in regard to building of new stars. Before, during the previous eras, and I'm talking WCW and NWA, the United States Championship wasn't really meant to build a new star. It was to represent the area, right? So like whoever has this is up next to be world champion. It was almost symbolic. This is the up next championship versus eventually the United States championship would turn into the workhorse title at one point in time, right? We all remember there was a time where the United States championship had more prestige to it than and more importance to it than the IC title. And then some things happen, and then we have runs with the Miz, we have runs with Dean Ambrose, we have runs with Daniel Bryan. You know what I mean? There's all these up and down moments. Like what belt is the belt that's the workhorse championship? And the United States Championship has made more stars. Like from, hey, this guy was here and it's here now. They're there. So it is just the lineage continues, but it's taken on almost a life of itself.
So I'm gonna hit you with some rapid fire questions. You ready for this?
Got it. Ready. Yep.
Okay. First, what's the standout moment? And you can pick any version of this belt. Give me your standout moment with the United States Championship.
Goldberg, first winning the United States Championship. That was a big deal.
Okay. How about your favorite wrestler to hold it?
That's cheating. No.
Give
Favorite
me
wrestler?
five. Give me five.
Okay. All right.
Five.
Kofi Kingston, Dolph Ziggler, Daniel Bryan, Cesaro, Diamond Dallas Page.
Oh wow. Okay. Career defining moment. Who had the career defining moment with it?
Dang, I should have said freaking Goldberg. I want to switch my answer now. Um,
Okay.
no, I'll say Zack Ryder. Zack Ryder winning the United States Championship, kind of him winning it and then losing it, kind of set him on the trajectory that it kind of still is on today. Of like this underdog guy that has to constantly prove himself to be right, and So yeah, to me that was the one that was the most improbable. Like we saw Goldberg coming, we saw Diamond Dallas Page coming, we saw Kofi and those guys. Like, oh yeah, but Zack Ryder was one. Everybody like he's never gonna. This guy's a Zoom camera and take care and spike your hair. So I'm definitely gonna say Zack Ryder won United States Championship in my hometown. It was in Baltimore. Baltimore.
And how about a match to watch? If you had to pick, give me two matches to watch. What would it be?
Oh boy, that's cheating. No, I'm not doing it. There's no way.
You can't pick
Um,
out two.
I really can't. There's too many. There's no one.
What's your default go to? If you need to go, if you go on YouTube and say I want to watch a United States title match, what you type it into the search bar?
Yeah, it was one thing, and then I did this stupid show, and all of a sudden now I have like 30 matches in my brain, and I'm like, yo, this show has once again disrupted my whole thinking. I'm like, crap, now I got to go back and rechange my whole thing. It's dang on goddamn championship culture.
I'm gonna
Uh,
say this before you answer.
mhm.
Here you might want to pay attention to this. Martin said you hitting him with questions like he's opinionated. Which apparently, Martin, it's up, right? You released the episode.
Is it up,
I hope it is, because I got a notification while we was here that I was mentioned in the comment.
bro?
Um,
I can't even.
and the
I can't even.
prototype. While you
See?
thinking, Justin said, "I'm ready for
See.
Damien. I mean, I'm sorry, Demon Finn as world champion."
It's gonna come out
So
all purple and black. I can't even. I can't think. Like there's a ton of them. Like I had my mind set up. Like I have my go tos, right?
mhm.
But it's like now it's like no. There's a decade that I've just like mentally neglected because of the time period, not because of the matches. And a lot of those matches got lost in the sauce. I couldn't even tell you. Like I'm really drawing a blank right now. Like I couldn't even like. There's so many. There's so many. So many. So many. So many. I was fine until I did the show. I was. I mean, I was. It would have been something like DDP, something WCW based. But now I'm like,
Mhm.
crap. I'm
It
like,
was so much,
shoot,
right?
bro, way too many.
Since
Way.
1975. Well, let's say that since 2003, since it's been reborn in WWE, it's been almost as much as when it started from 75 to '01. I think we had more stuff.
Um, it's bro. I'm trying to think. Kofi
I
Kingston,
think
Dolph
we got
Ziggler.
them.
Kofi Kingston, Dolph Ziggler. I'm trying to think which one though. Like, I don't even know. This is terrible. Pass. I can't even.
Okay.
I
All right.
can't
I
even.
think we
Bro. It's
finally
you.
stumped them.
I
We
think
finally
this
stumped them.
because I'm telling you, when I say I was cool until that back half of those names that you named, when you went from like Kofi and then you just started shooting off name after name, I said, yo, I was just like, yo, he's right. Like, this is ridiculous. Like
Mm.
the level of work that we saw, those matches made these guys that we love so much. Like these guys were getting these matches underneath their belt so much that made us go, that guy should be a world champion. This don't make no sense. You keep putting this guy like that's what that work of United States champion made us say about these guys. I mean, I don't know if it was somebody in the comments just said it like this is the era where people said at some point one of these guys at one point should be world champion. It's because this is what we were getting from the United States championship run that we wasn't getting from the world heavyweight championship run. Dang it, I thought I was prepared for this show. They got me.
We got you
Shoot.
good.
Oh god.
Oh,
Dang on championship culture. Man.
oh, I don't know if we must have missed this comment. I was looking for that comment, but Martin said it was the U.S. title feud that made the Dolph. It should have been me. So personal and so and great. Oh, I'm sorry. No, sorry, but that was I was trying to find the comment because I remember somebody did say something about that.
bro.
Um, well,
You
Justin said if you need a match to watch, you can't go wrong with anything from
stop, cut
2015
it out.
Cena. Wasn't
No,
that the open challenge?
that was the let's create more new stars. Like
And he
what I
fought
mean.
Cesaro. He fought uh uh oh
But
my
Del
god,
Rio
what's
came
his name?
back for a hot second.
No, what's his name? El Generico.
Yeah,
Sammy.
Sammy got hurt, and then Kevin Owens not too long after that
Stepped on the
stepped on the
title.
United States Championship. Well, iconic moments.
Yep. So
I was fine until I got to the end of the show.
you were okay. But we're at the point of the show where we like to say, and
So
when we
glittery.
kick yeah, so everybody has a story, as he would say, right?
Mm-hmm.
I, I don't know if the people pay attention to season two, right?
Okay,
But at the beginning of season two, we talked about finishing the story, right?
got it.
And that was a double turn. But in that
It was.
double turn, it had some truth behind it. Um, what belt were you given at that time, sir?
I was given the version 2 of the Wrestling Round World Championship. This championship right, this lovely.
No, the other one that was in the bag. What was in the bag?
Oh, I was given the what was in the bag? Hold on, don't tell me. Let me see where I'm at. Hold on. That was in my bag, or no? It was the ECW Television Championship.
So
You
was it
talking
a
about?
time before that you was? Because I think that you have a United States title in your possession, don't you?
I do. It wasn't that championship. You gave me that a while ago. So yeah,
Okay,
you
but
did.
you
You
had
gave.
that one.
I do. Yep. You gave me that. It was a one you felt it wasn't. You deemed it wasn't good enough. So you end up getting a new one.
Do you have it?
No, I don't. I don't have it in my possession right now. I have a belt room, and I have a room with like all my championships laid out, but it's in like my
I want the
mother's
people
house
to see your belt.
in my
Okay, it's
museum.
not with you.
Because I thought about having it, but I was like, I don't. When I saw the rundown, I was like, well, it's nothing on here for me to bring it up, so I just kind of left it alone. So I figured you have plenty. So
And I got one that spins. But we also got the United States, the IWGP United States one, but that could be for another time.
see,
Hint,
there you
hint.
go.
But ladies and gentlemen, every belt normally does have a story. And I wanted Dwayne to share his story with his United States belt, but I wanted you to see it too because the reason I don't have it anymore because I don't have a story with the belt outside of it was on sale and I said I felt like I need to have it as a belt collector. So
Terrible.
in me trying to free up some space, I said, "Oh man, does anybody want this?" And of course, Dwayne said, "I'll take it."
Of
So,
course, we can't.
so
First of all, championship belts shouldn't be homeless. They should always have a home. And if,
yes,
and
and
if
you
there's no
always let
only
me know
one
that they
home,
have home. And
my
I
door's
don't
always
know.
open.
And Martin said, just a quick thought. When Kevin Owens answered to Cena and chose to raise his NXT title over the US title, did that hurt the US title as much as it elevated NXT or did it help both? So that's kind of a loaded question in my mind. And I'm gonna let realness answer. Let me give you my take on that. Whenever somebody raises their title up against somebody else's title, to me, they both look silly because they're both champions, like Dwayne has said it, for that particular reason. So whether I'm the champion of Raw, I'm the champion of SmackDown or NXT, if I'm the champion of AEW or TNA, um, when they were holding titles up in front of each other, because I remember when like Kenny Omega and Rick Swan were holding the belts up. Oh, they're both world champions. But then when Christian was going after the AEW, it felt like it was equal playing field. So to me, it's always about who's holding it, not necessarily what the title is. Cena could be having the 24/7 championship and going up against the hardcore champion, right? And we're still going to think Cena is the more important one. It's not going to hurt or help the other person. Does that make sense? So I kind of
Mhm.
feel like if
Yeah,
it wasn't
I
Cena
can dig it. Yeah,
and anybody else, I would have felt like, oh, they're
I
trying to say the NXT title is more important.
I was thinking the exact same thing because I was about to say like because it was John Cena, it was like trust me, it wouldn't have made a difference with Cena holding it. Cena was in a whole different stratosphere at this point. So yeah, I don't. If it was anybody else, I'd be like, ooh, maybe. You know what I mean? But like you said,
Because
because
think
it
about
was
Survivor
Cena.
Series
Yeah. Hmm.
when they do it with the. Remember when was it Roman and Drew? Roman was
Hmm.
the Universal Champion and Drew was the WWE Champion.
Right.
Roman felt important because they made his belt
Sure.
more important. It was closing out the shows. It was doing things. But if Roman, when he was United States or Intercontinental Champion, it felt like okay, he's checking off the box because this is further his story at the time.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
now that Roman comes back and holds on the old belt, it's going to feel like the most important thing ever because of
Yeah.
him that's holding it.
Yeah.
So,
We saw Jay Lethal do something similar in Ring of Honor during the heyday of 20. Well, I get what 14, 15,
or yeah,
where
with the
he was 15, 16ish. He was the 14, 15, 16. He was the world television champion, and he was being booked like in the main events. And his whole thing was like, you don't know who's the world champion. You know what I mean? So I agree 1,000%. It depends on who's holding it. And at that time, with Cena holding the championship, it was like it didn't matter what he did. It was it was more of a rebellious act more than a burying because of who was holding the championship.
so I think we were able to do this today. What you think, brother? I
I know
think.
one thing: my notes are going to be loaded for tomorrow because you know
Why do
the
you know it's so loaded?
one, I have 2 weeks worth of stuff. Second of all, you guys are on In or Out Sports Debate. That was a sight to see. So there's gonna be plenty of notes. And then tonight, this is the first time, and I'm gonna publicly say this. Usually I'm pretty on top of things when it comes to championship culture. First of all, I got tricked back because the shows never go this long. Usually they're like, all right, let's wrap this up. That's one. Two, I see why I reminded myself as to why I did not want to answer the question that one day when it came to the United States Championship. I was thinking about its previous lineage, but just being on this show, the breakdown of like what really, really happened. The United States Championship is a career defining championship. And it's gone so unspoken about because of that era. Because, like I said, during that era, everything was always about the top. You know what I mean? But when you look at it now, and we're kind of being retrained to watch the product, and now you go back and you look at stuff and you say, wait a minute, this probably should have gone a different direction. You had your next class of world title, and don't get me wrong, some of those people would go on to be world champions, but a lot of them, didn't because of just the way the business was structured during that time. But this show really has caused me to say we got to go back and look at this era and really, really give this era credit for what it really did for some of our favorite superstars, especially that last group. I was cool as you got all the way through it, and then you said that last group. I was like, wait a minute. I said this group right here was it. Like I remember these were the matches that we look forward to all the time. Like we were being force fed Roman or Cena and Edge and stuff like that. But what kept us watching the show was that era, that United States Championship run of champions, of people that you saw. And I was like, dang it, championship culture, you've done it again. You stumped the realness. I didn't think it could happen. Because I'm usually like I'm on top of this. I can hang with the belt guys, but this was different, man. I'm
What you
taking it
say?
back.
You're not dealing with a regular guy. I know stuff.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, you're not, you're not
You
doing
said
it.
it.
I know a few things, but this one was
Mhm.
this was very, very eye-opening. And I hope that anybody who watches this or listens to it has an opportunity to really go back and just appreciate a lot of the things that we talked about, because a lot of stuff I just didn't remember or I didn't pay attention to, but it's because I was conditioned not to pay attention to it from that era because of the way the
Mhm.
product was given to us. So shout out to championship culture. You guys have you guys done it again. Because now I'm gonna go back and watch all this stuff and say, man, I gotta go back in. So that's why my notes are gonna be pretty full.
Well, because remember, we had Monday in or out sports debate,
Interrupt for
Tuesday
today.
championship culture,
Hmm.
and on Tuesday there's the newest game from Four Sides. I'm sorry, the newest trivia from Four Sides of the Ring. 3 count trivia is doing opinionated, where
Is that launched?
you might see one of the championship culture boys on there. All I'm saying is go over to Four Sides of the Ring, check it out. It will not disappoint. I will say this, and I'm gonna say it again. I said it before. After the championship culture boys won the inaugural 3 count trivia from Four Sides of the Ring.
Mhm.
We were in Mania and we received our belt. And I told Martin, who was the host, he needed a hug because his questions was coming from a place that nobody ever loved him. So I gave this
Wow.
man a hug. And I said, you know what? I thought that hug helped. It didn't. He
Wow.
still needs love because when you go watch Opinionated,
Mhm.
if you, I hope you can see everybody's face expression because you talking about somebody stressed out. He loves to stress us out, but it was all fun and games. So please go over
Mm-mm.
to Four Sides of the Ring. And don't forget, um, also check out Mouthing Off with Mike, where he had those championship culture boys on there as well. So people are asking for us, and we'll come talk about belts
Making
anytime,
towns, buddy.
and I will talk about sports too, Willie Wood. Anytime you need me to talk about the sports, I got you. But I'm gonna leave
I've
y'all
got,
with this
I
thought.
got plenty of notes on that too.
I'm gonna leave you with this note, right? So over at and I saw this graphic, right?
Oh wow, look at
And it
that.
comes from Wrestle News 365. You can find them on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and X, right? Twitter or
Mhm.
X, right? Using Wrestle News 365. They had posted this graphic to kind of give us the evolution of the United States Championship, right?
Mhm.
And while we're talking about that, I'm gonna just throw some facts out there, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Lex Luger has held it 5 times with a combination of 950 reigns. Ric
Wow, that's a
Flair,
lot. Sheesh.
yeah, I'm sorry, 950 days. Ric Flair, 5 time champion,
Mhm.
773 days. Greg Valentine, 2 reigns, 512. MVP, out of his 2 reigns, 419 days.
Mhm.
John Cena, I don't know if people remember this. He's had 5 reigns, 493 times, 493 days.
That's
We
his go-to
also,
mid-card belt.
yep, never had the IC, but he always loved the United States. And I'm gonna give you two
Captain
more people
America.
to think about, right?
Mhm.
Because I thought it was more. And when
Magnum
I tell
TA.
you, no, you going well, I'll get find his stats, but I wrote these two down because I you might think it's more realness.
Mhm.
Booker T has only had it 4 times, and his combined days are only 271. Maybe I'm thinking about the television belt,
Well,
but
yeah,
I feel like he had
he's
that more.
he had the television title longer because that nobody else really wanted it and they didn't know what to do with it, so they kept it on Booker for a while.
And the other person is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. 4 reigns,
Hmm.
but I thought he had it longer than 265 days.
I did too. That is a shocker. That's
Yeah,
a shocker.
exactly. So I just wanted to share that because as you see the lineage where the belt has changed through time, you know, but from 86 on, I think we kept having the silhouette or some type of flag, and we can remember when Lance Storm changed it in the
Yeah.
2000s, which
Yep.
was great TV because one of his belts was the Saskatchewan Hardcore. What was it? Or Saskatchewan? The acronym was a word that I'm not going to say, but I thought that was hilarious as a kid. I was like, "Oh, he has that belt." Um, so just wanted to point that out, the evolution, and shout out to Wrestle News 365. Please go follow them, check them out. They have some great facts about championships. So definitely wanted to share that. Do you have any final thoughts about the U.S. belt? Because I feel like you've been stumped, but it's okay because
Wow.
that's what we're here for, right?
This is amazing. I had such this is what the wrestling realm is all about. This is what championship culture is all about. These thought-provoking conversations that kind of force you to look at things from a different scope than what you're probably used to. And this particular show, season 2, Championship Culture, has really brought back my fondness of the United States Championship. I'm a mid-card championship guy, so I love television titles. I love United States champs. I love intercontinental championships, and just the level of respect for the front end of the United States Championship, not what happened back then, but because that's where my focus was, and I figured if I got a good handle on that part, I should be fine. But man, that era, it really messed me up. It really, really messed. I'm not used to being messed up from a conversation, but man, this you guys have you've done your job. This has been an amazing experience, and I'm glad that I was able to use this as one of my takeover opportunities to be a part of this particular show. And I hope, like I said, that everybody who had a chance to watch it will get a chance to go back and appreciate some of our favorite stars and in their moments, because there was a day we didn't think that those guys would get any further than that era. You know, they didn't, you know, then the United States Championship, then the Intercontinental Championship. But here we are today, and some of them, you know, broke through and still doing amazing things even later in their careers, man. But nah, this is a blast, man. You know, this is you know, love or hate America of how you feel about it. But you know, one thing you can't deny is that the United States Championship has man, it has solidified its lineage and its legacy in pro wrestling history. And as fans, I'm glad to have witnessed just about majority all of it, and for the stuff that I didn't get a chance to witness, I can go back and watch it. So thank you, Championship
Hmm.
Culture Brothers. Thank you, Brother Hugh. Thank you, brother Guy, for allowing me the opportunity to do so. So
And it looks like in the comments we got Mike and Justin supporting each other. Prototype, appreciate that. He just followed
there we go. That's
Mike
what it's
with
about.
Mopping Off of Mike podcast. You talking about somebody that's entertaining? I
Hmm.
got to full disclosure. I got to warn you. His chest hair comes out. Just be
Oh
careful
wow.
because he's Italian and he has a full blown. Just full disclosure. Be careful with the chest hair. That's all I'm gonna say about that. So I think we did it. We went through this pretty well. I think I think we accomplished it. What say you? I think so. I don't know if he's gonna pop up and add his two
So
cents, but
when
I'm
when
gonna
is the truth going to come out?
which part?
You know,
Which truth? I don't
you
have
know
any
the
belt.
you
I don't have
nah
any belt.
you know the
I don't.
truth. When's the
I.
truth going to come out, Brother
What's the
Hugh?
truth?
Brother Hugh's are you the puppet master? You the man with the master plan? Huh?
He. Oh, he's quiet now.
Yeah, he's
He's not
quiet.
saying nothing.
See,
Okay.
yeah, see. I got you live. You haven't turned the button off yet. Yeah, that's right. Uncle
And we
Howdy
can't
is
end until I say
Uncle
what I need to say.
Uncle Howdy isn't the only one lurking around here now, isn't he? Oh
Who's he
yeah.
talking about? Wait a minute.
Listen.
Can we?
Now
Can
he
you?
doesn't know
Can
what
you
I'm
play
talking
your what
about.
you call it? And can you play your intro again, Dwayne? I want to watch that video again.
But listen to me.
Can, can you play it with?
Watch Brother Hugh as he presses the button. He's the puppet master.
Oh, wait a minute. But Prototype asked the question. When is the WWE Championship show? We did a network logo show earlier in the season. We had the good brother Ben Walker on from Championship Belt Brothers talking about the network logo belts. Um, but as in WWE Championship, I think
Look, fans want more. This is
one.
thought provoking. See?
I think somebody that's in the comments. They hate gotta support everyone. The hate. Huh? Oh, the facts. he might. He means the facts. Got to support
There it
everybody.
is.
I think Marcus from Four Sides of the Ring opened up a can of worms about the Wing Eagle, but I think he's not off the hook with that. But stay tuned to that. Hugh, can you play that video, or Dwayne? Can you play the video? Whoever got the video, I just want to see the video again.
Yeah, he knows. Go ahead, Mr.
I
Puppet
think it's
Master.
Dwayne
It's yeah,
because as I'm talking, it just
it's
happened.
you, the fire.
Dari ufuk timur hingga ke ujung barat, terukir dengan indah jejak langkahmu.
The fact that that music is so creepy, I feel like we just watched a Bray Wyatt tribute.
It
But
isn't.
the,
It
I,
isn't as
the,
it isn't as creepy as you think, brother.
but it says it's been 10 years and it still stings. Born from black and gold to my roots, I'm
Mm,
the first of the industry.
mm. I don't know. You're a black man wearing a gold shirt, Brandon. Why don't you elaborate?
I'm wearing a golden red championship culture shirt,
How fitting. How
but
fitting.
I know somebody got some gold the other day. But we ain't gonna say nothing about that, huh? It's mighty strange that this video pops up, isn't it?
Listen to me. It always listen. The riddles. You're talking to the man that grew up on solving the riddles. I grew up watching Batman. You kidding me?
Because you said something at the beginning. I got to go back and watch.
The Riddler,
So
the Riddler always leaves the dirtiest trails in his riddles is because the Riddler always wants to get caught. So you know why? You know why the Riddler always wants to get caught, Brandon? So he can leave another riddle. And I'm not talking Matt. I'm not talking mad. The fireflies never go north. They always go south, whether it's to the east or whether it's to the west. They always circle about. Just remember. Yeah? Just
Who's the
remember.
first of the industry? I'm the first of the industry.
Keep reading it. Go ahead, read it again.
Okay, it
See?
says,
Go
it's
ahead.
been 10 years and it still stings. Born from black and gold to my roots. I'm the first of the industry. But it says black and gold on the side. And what was on the other side?
You know what was on the side. There it is. You know
No,
what was
I
on the other
look, I
side.
took a picture of it. I took a picture of the screen.
Yeah. So what did you take a picture of, buddy?
I took a picture. Well, Jeff Sanders from Wave Audio Insider sent us an email at the time I took the picture. So
Mm-hmm.
you can see it was timestamped. I just took the picture. And look, you see my belts behind it.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. What does it say? What does it say right there? Chair shot. What does it say? Drip.
Oh, it's
As in king of the drip. This is lingo you guys use. The fireflies always go north. They never go south. They move to the east and they move to the west. When the Riddler drops a riddle, he only leaves another riddle. And I'm not talking Matt. They lied to us.
who lied to you?
They told us to follow the buzzards, but where did we go? We went down a rabbit hole. They told us to follow the buzzards, but instead we went down a rabbit hole. Come on, fellas. Huh? Huh?
You really got me this time. You know what? Dwayne, I said it on the show before. You can't out troll me. And you definitely can't out troll me, but you tried. You got
Listen
me
to me.
because that video, but now you said it said drip and chair
You
shot.
you know the funny part about trolls is
What's that?
trolls always can be found under a bridge, never in a cave. And there's a reason for that. Always under a bridge, never in a cave. You gotta pay attention. They see it
Oh,
just
look
like
what it is, Dylan. Dylan just
they
joined us.
they see it just like I see it. They're gonna catch you. They're gonna, gonna
Okay, so this has gotten weird. This is definitely taken
they're
off
they're
from the United
going
States
to
title.
catch you. You guys are getting sloppy. You're leaving your trails behind. You're leaving your trails behind.
He is having so much fun with this.
I'm just saying. Look at Brad. Look at Brad. Look at he's trying to catch it. That's that.
No,
He
I'm
he was
I'm on
he
Twitter.
was
I
he
want
was
to see if
going
he posts some on Twitter.
he was going to catch it first, and he's going to say, "Holy crap, we left a trail." I'm telling you, he's and when he catches it, get this. I can't wait. It's gonna the fans are probably going to see it first.
Then it said, "Oh snap, I'm back."
Look. You got like everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. I don't know, brother. You tell us. Can I ask you? See, we can't hear you, brother.
I'm not sure what I just walked into.
Brother Hugh.
I heard
Can I
was
ask
a
you a
sloppy
question?
rabbit.
Are you? I have a question, brother Hugh. I have a question. You ready? Here you go. Are you the puppet master or the architect? Which one? See,
Which one are you? Because
yeah, that's the $1,000,000 question. Look, he don't want to answer it. He doesn't want to answer it. He
so, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, this was Star Strikes and
answer.
Slams,
You
the
know the
United
answer.
States Championship Chronicles. Once
He
again,
just doesn't
Star
want to say
Stripes
it.
and Slams. If you are just joining us like Dylan, welcome, brother. But guess what? We've been on here for an hour and 58 minutes. You know what time to check us out tomorrow. Tune in tomorrow to the Wrestling Room flagship show where you'll get to hear the Wayne say, welcome to the Wrestling Room Now podcast. And he does his whole spiel. Tonight, he was a special guest on Championship Culture, who, for lack of a
The
better term,
the takeover edition.
yes, the Takeover Edition,
How
which
black and
this
gold
counts
of a name
as
like that?
this is uh, so this is the third takeover, right? Got two more to go, don't you, brother?
Is it? Do I have two more? I believe
I think you
so.
got two more.
Yeah, we have
Because
two
one of them is in
more. This
reference to the
is
gold that you received, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. And then what was the other one? It's a
Uh-huh.
surprise, but yeah, I'm looking forward to. One was actually already done, but we had to pivot because of some late breaking situations that happened. So
Oh no, you still got the two. I know what the two. I know what the two topics are,
no, I'm
and
saying
I
like one is
can't
like
wait.
one is already actually done. Well, at least was should be the layout should be already
Oh yeah,
situated. Yeah.
yes, you're right. So yeah, tune in every Wednesday at 10:30 for the flagship show, the Restaurant Now podcast. But every Tuesday, tune into Championship Culture. Brother Realness, tell the people where they can find you before I tell them how to tune into these shows.
You can find me where the fireflies go north because they never go south. They go east and they never go west. We followed the buzzards. Instead, we went down a rabbit hole at Dwayne Allen 24 on Twitter, at TRDA brand on Instagram. Was that everything? Oh, and don't at Wrestling Realm, of course. Follow Wrestling Realm with two W's, wrestling, and then Realm, the W in front of the Realm, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, Threads, somewhere else too, but that's the majority of the places. If you go to one of those places, you can find the other places where you can find us.
And as always, Hugh, tell them where they can find you. I know you died too because you over there dying.
You can't hear him. Yeah, his
Okay, you can
his mic.
find him by
He's
just looking for
having.
H to the A to the S to the T to the H to the E to the 3 to the R to the 3. That is Has the Third on all social media. He's the owner of Hazmat Photography. If you're looking for a good cameraman to capture those precious moments, hit him up. If you're looking for some good clothing or you want to take TR, I'm trying to remember the R. What's the R? What's the R, Doy?
Who, me?
Yeah, what's the R?
Respect.
Take respect to biodiversity
There you
by
go.
going to trda.com and check out the clothing brand, which is more like a lifestyle, more than a clothing brand.
No
And
doubt.
always, you can find me on Custom Guy on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and follow me at Championship Culture _ because if you follow us, we will definitely follow back. Dylan, we're glad you joined us. Please go back and watch the show because I can't wait to see what you think of this show. But you tune in tomorrow for the flagship show, 10:30 p.m. on youtube.com/the wrestling room. Every Tuesday, tune in next Tuesday to an episode of Championship Culture. When I say it, I'm telling you, you do not want to miss this Tuesday episode. We're going to have a good time.